This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Pasterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you for a couple hours, taking you into Jets Penguins tonight, Jets Predators tomorrow night. Huge slate of NFL action on Sunday. Pretty fun NFL Thursday nighter last night. The snow globe got shaken up there in the second half in Cleveland in the dog pound. That was a hell of a fun night. Don't usually expect a game like that between an 8-2 team and a 2-8 team, but that is the AFC North. Hacksaw, as usual, will join us for the NFL Notebook later on in the second hour of the program before we get to another world-famous WST marble race to wrap the week. But before then, we've got a lot going on. Our pal Scott Billeck is going to join us. Now, Scott has had he's been traded, if you will, from the Sun to the Free Press and isn't on the sports beat. But no, we probably won't be doing regular hits with Scott like we did beforehand. I wanted to get him on, get his thoughts on the Grey Cup and the Jets, and talk a little bit about where he's at right now. So Billeck's going to join us a little later. We're started off in Pittsburgh with Mike McIntyre, who was there at the morning skate tonight. He's going to set up these next two games. Of course, he's on this marathon trip with the Winnipeg Jets that'll take them from Pittsburgh to Nashville to Minnesota, then out to the West Coast, Vegas, and LA. So the latest on the Jets heading into tonight's game with Mike McIntyre, and then really looking forward to welcoming in Jeff Marek. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time we've had Jeff on the program. You know, the timing of Jeff's old show and responsibilities with Sportsnet made it very difficult. But coming up in, I guess, 2 weeks, December 2nd, Jeff's new show, The Sheet, is going to debut, a 1-hour daily hockey show over on the Daily Faceoff Network. So going to have Jeff on, get his thoughts on the hot start of the Winnipeg Jets, a little Four Nations. And I'm going to have to ask him, there's almost no one that I think covers junior hockey and the development path of NHL players as well as Jeff. And he'll be the best person to talk to about what the implications are of the NCAA eligibility changes for the Canadian Hockey League, junior hockey, particularly, you know, in the West, junior A hockey like the BCHL, MJHL, Alberta Junior Hockey League, USHL. And will we see 19-year-olds that have been drafted from CHL teams eligible for the American Hockey League in the future? All of that coming up with Jeff Marek a little bit later on. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Our friends at CoolBet just finished up our Big Friday Lock Shop with our best bets of the week. You can see that wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Search Lock Shop. And, of course, you can see it on the Edmonton Sports Talk YouTube channel. Our friends at Princess Auto, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, fansfirst.ca, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, the Winnipeg Jets, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, and, of course, Royal Sports and Boston Pizza. And we'll get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remis, get in here. Happy Friday to you, my friend, and happy Friday to everybody in the chat.
Happy Friday. Pumped for the weekend. We have back-to-back Jets games tonight against Pittsburgh and Saturday against Nashville. You know, it used to be Pittsburgh and Nashville. Pretty tough opponents, you know, like 10 years ago. That would be a really hard road trip. Not as much this season. Nashville falling on their face after we anointed them off-season champions, and Pittsburgh in denial about needing a rebuild. So I'm looking at the bottom of the Metropolitan standings, Hustler. And there is Pittsburgh, 7, 10, and 4 in 8th place. Behind Philadelphia Flyers, yikes. And there is Nashville also in the bottom of the Central Division, behind the rebuilding Blackhawks. So I don't think it's going as planned that for the Jets' next 2 opponents this season.
No, it isn't. I'm really interested to see what we get out of Pittsburgh. I'd mentioned that I was listening to Elliott earlier this week, and they were talking about the coaching situations in Boston and in Pittsburgh, and there is a feeling that if Mike Sullivan were to be let go by Pittsburgh, he might find himself very quickly behind the bench of the Boston Bruins. Joe Sacco, of course, right now an interim head coach. But the Penguins have 7 wins this season. 7 wins in 21 games. They are last in the Metropolitan Division. They're only ahead of Montreal and Ottawa, but both of those teams have 2 games in hand on them. I think by points percentage, they actually are last right now. And they have a conference worst actually an NHL worst, minus 26 goal differential, Reem. That's a pretty good idea to give you a bit of a barometer as to how this team's doing. And this is quite the mismatch tonight based on that. The number 1 team in the NHL in both standings and goal differential, the Winnipeg Jets, against the worst in the league, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, that doesn't mean anything. They got to play 60 minutes, and the Winnipeg Jets are going to need to be ready. But certainly Winnipeg, comes in as a favorite in this game. And then you mentioned Nashville. Nashville got caught by the Blackhawks last night, who beat the Florida Panthers. A very dull and dreary game. I should have gone to Florida Hockey Now and listened to Maurice after the game. I'm sure he wasn't too pleased with that effort. But we don't have to see the Blackhawks for a bit. This is about Nashville on Saturday. 6-11-3 on the season. That's the Saturday night date for Winnipeg. But as I said, Mike McIntyre is going to join us in a little bit. No surprise when we're speaking about the lineup, to quote Kirk-Contois of Assiniboia Downs, there are no changes. The usual. Connor Scheifele-Velarde, Perfetti, Nemetstikov, Ehlers, Lowry with Nino and Appleton, who is playing his 300th game. We'll hear a little bit from Nathan Appleton in a minute. He's playing his 300th game tonight. Kapari, Barron, Iafallo, Gustafson, the 13th forward, and then the defense pairings, Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Fleury, and Miller, and Connor Hellebuck in the net for the Winnipeg Jets. One of the things that Pittsburgh's had a real tough time doing, as shown by their goal differential, is keeping the puck out of the net. Tristan Jarry, Remis, in for the Penguins tonight. And to make things even more challenging, they're not even sure whether Chris Letang and Kevin Hayes are going to be able to play tonight. They're both game-time decisions.
I remember last week, Hustler, when Coach Mike Sullivan said every player on the team was a game-time decision.
The whole squad.
Not really going that well for the Penguins. They got Beauvillier, Crosby, Raquel, projected top line, Bunting, Malkin, Rust, Jesse Puljujarvi, who's found himself in a nice depth role for Pittsburgh with Drew O'Connor and Samuel Poulin, and Matt Nieto, Noel Acciari, and Vasily Ponomarev is the 4th line. Defense, Marcus Pettersson, his name's come up in trade talks with Erik Karlsson, Matt Grzelcyk, and Chris Letang. You mentioned game time. Owen Pickering and Ryan Shea. So depth, not exactly there for Pittsburgh, but this is why they play the games. As we mentioned, Florida did lose to Chicago, so the Jets are going to want to bring their A game, play, Winnipeg Jets hockey. Scott O'Neill talked about exactly what that is. We'll get to the clips, but keep it rolling from, Tuesday's win where they got back to their game house against Florida. And look at this grinder of a road trip. A lot of talk about the road trip ahead, especially coming home for a game house. And now heading out to 3 different time zones. You got East Pittsburgh, Central Nashville, Minnesota on Monday. And then back out west to the Kings and Vegas. So here we go. Game 1. Looking forward to the back-to-back games.
What's
tonight
the 6th
is on
game?
What?
What's the 6th game of the
That's
trip?
December. The calendar doesn't go that far. It's in Dallas. So they go.
Oh, Dallas. Okay.
So they go. Yeah. So they go. Let's see. East, back to the central, back to the west. Back down here, and then back up home.
All over the place.
All over the map.
Mike McIntyre's getting some good air miles and Marriott points for his for this 6-gamer for sure. Hey, by the way, shout out to All Caps Kyle, who just dropped a nice super chat in there. Late super chat, but this is to go toward Ted's Cancer Care Fund. Great stuff, Kyle. Appreciate that. And certainly the folks at Cancer Care will as well. We're also going to hear from Coach O'Shea. Mike O'Shea spoke today, extended final presser of the year, hammer bombing the entire crew. We're down there, talking to Mike O'Shea about what happened in the Grey Cup. We'll have a little bit of that for you. But listen, before we bring in Mike, let's get the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. And, we just mentioned about what a big road trip this is for Winnipeg, their longest of the season, 6 straight. And then they come back for just one game and then are back out on the road. So this is one of the most challenging parts of the entire season. We said that at the beginning of the month, and lo and behold, the Winnipeg Jets playing their 20th game tonight of the season could have an incredible record of 17-3 if they can get the win against Pittsburgh heading into this back-to-back against Nashville tomorrow. Arneil spoke this morning about wanting to start this big road trip off on the right foot tonight.
Seems like we're still on the road. We went home for one after the New York Florida trip, but it's every opponent is its own sort of different animal, and Pittsburgh's going to be no difference in this building. That we have to make sure that we go take the game away from them. There's nothing going to be handed to us, and we've done a good job of resetting off our last game. And no matter what happened, we got to move forward. Pittsburgh's going to be a tough out. We got to make sure that we're good.
Yeah, it looks like the Penguins certainly didn't like how their last game ended. They've had a couple, sounds like pretty intense practice days, so you're expected to see a response from them, I'm sure.
Yeah, we kind of ran into 2 of those teams here not long ago with Tampa and Florida. So I really like the way we got back to playing our game on the second one against Florida, and I really want to stress that tonight, that there's a Jet way of playing, and we got to make sure that we're doing that, and we're making it hard on Pittsburgh, and let them make the adjustments to us.
Now, Scott Arneil, speaking of playing Winnipeg Jets hockey, which they've been doing very successfully this year, he expanded a little bit more on his idea of what the Jets' identity is.
Over the last couple of years here, we've kind of built an identity how we wanted to play, and first and foremost, it's how we play without the puck, and that's 200 feet of kind of pressure and getting the puck back. And then I also like to think that we've created a real offensive style as well, that we're an attack team, and we're also, when we get in the offensive zone, that, we can put teams on their heels with our quickness and with our ability to get pucks to the net, and, just do those offensive things well.
And then you got a goalie too.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Big smile for their Vezina Trophy winning goaltender, Connor Hellebuck, from the head coach. Now, Logan Stanley was skating after the formal portion of practice. Ville Heinola, of course, is going to play his second game with the Manitoba Moose tomorrow at 2 p.m. down at Canada Life Centre. That is the celebration of 25 years of Moose hockey in Winnipeg, wearing the special jersey, the pin giveaway, as Dan Fink told us yesterday, for the first 1,000 fans, and what could very well be Ville Heinola's final game as a Manitoba Moose. So you might want to check that out if you got tomorrow afternoon open. But Arneil did update a bit of a timeline for Logan Stanley.
Yeah, there's no timeline yet. He's just out there. He didn't come on at the start. He's just at the end, keeping away from getting run into or anything like that. He's just getting a feel. Like I said, he's been on the ice last 3 days or so, and right now it's just more kind of keeping his legs, making sure that we, he feels comfortable just getting out there and doing that stuff, and we'll just kind of play it as we go along here. No real practice days here, with a back-to-back and then Sunday off and playing Monday, so we don't expect to really see him until next week.
All right, so there's the update on the timeline. There is no timeline right now for Logan Stanley, and obviously not skating with the team in practice would indicate he is still a little ways away. And in all likelihood, we'll probably see Ville Heinola get into the lineup before Logan Stanley. Ville will join the club on Sunday in advance of the Monday game in Minnesota, in the St. Paul against the Minnesota Wild. Of course, anytime the Jets get a chance to play Pittsburgh, it's always cool to see Sidney Crosby, of course, is going to be a member of Canada's team at the Four Nations Cup. He and Alex Ovechkin have been huge stories this year. More Ovi than Sid. Sid's still waiting for his 600th. We know how the Jets have had somewhat of a knack of giving up milestone goals and points in the past. I don't know what we should think about that for tonight, but here's Arnie going up against Crosby and how he and Alex Ovechkin are playing at such a high level after 20-plus seasons in the league.
Yeah, I've got a big history with all these guys in the Metro, obviously, from Columbus to New York and other Rangers, and then Wash, special players. Those two came in at the same time, obviously. They're elite players, but I just, I watch Sid, every year. Whether he's playing with star players or whether they've got him with young players, he makes people around him so much better, and that's why we come in here tonight. There's no easy game, especially with him being the captain on the other side. He's not going to let his group take let us just come in here and do what we want. I got way too much respect for him, and even when all these young great names that are in the game today, he still is one of the elite.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel, head coach for the Winnipeg Jets. 6 o'clock puck drop tonight for Winnipeg and Pittsburgh. And one milestone that will happen for sure tonight is Mason Appleton playing his 300th game. Appleton, first off, talked about this road trip and starting it off right against Pittsburgh this evening.
Probably say this is one of the longest and craziest travel trips I've had in my time here. But like you said, rest, recovery, doing the little things to kind of take care of yourself is important. Starting with a back-to-back too is not the easiest thing, but obviously no excuses for this group. So, we liked our game last game, and we're going to try to keep that thing rolling tonight.
And Pittsburgh's a team that seems to generate a lot offensively, but they do give up a lot in their own end. How much, and I know you guys want to dictate things, but how much do you take out of maybe the last game that you guys played against them back in October, and you try to apply what made you guys successful today?
Yeah, for a lot of that game, it was tight. Obviously, we kind of opened it up a little bit there at the end against them, but it's always a different animal when you're playing in their barn when, they can control the matches and little things like that. They still have some of the best players in the world in that locker room, and like you said, offensively they can kill you if you give them too much time. So we're going to try to play our game and really defend hard and make it hard on those top guys all night, and then from there let kind of our offensive skills shine like we have been doing as a group.
All right, so there's the part of the Adam Lowry line that has been so dominant this year. None other than Mason Appleton. And, you look at Appleton's performance so far this season along with the rest of the Winnipeg Jets. Appleton now 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. I'd like to actually thank Mason Appleton because we had a few discussions about Appleton going into the season. And I did have the back of number 22, despite many bad takes in the chat about Appleton's spot on the team and contribution. And listen, they have picked up right where they left off last year. And you don't hear anyone complaining about Appleton or the Lowry line at all. And frankly, at 16-3 now, hard to pick very many issues with the Jets right now. Enjoy it while it lasts. That could change, but it has been a really good season for Mason. It's been a great season for the Lowry line, and he continues to build on 299 in the league and 300 tonight. Here's Appleton on hitting that milestone this evening.
Coming into the league, you're just kind of a younger guy that wants to do anything he can to stick in this league, and from there you grow as a player, you grow as a person, and obviously, the root of my game and the core of my game has kind of stayed consistent over the years, but you add layers and folds into that, and just try to be, the best guy I can be and not get complacent any night, and just work my butt off every single shift. So that's kind of, how I try to go about it. And yeah, 300 is awesome, and cool milestone to hit, and hopefully there's more to add on to that.
All right, so there is Mason Appleton. And, Reem, it's weird. I'm looking at Hockey DB. I don't know. I think these numbers are a little screwed up or something like that because it says he's got 348. I'm sure if we're celebrating 300, that is the actual number. Oh, it's 300 with the Jets, I guess, because he did play 49 games that year with the Seattle Kraken. So it's his 300th game with Winnipeg. And, coming off a career season last year with 14 goals and 36 points, part of a line that shut down top opposition all year long, picked up right where he left off. And it is, his career is really interesting. Like, he is a guy, you have first rounders that, will come and immediately become stars. You'll have some first rounders that take years to make their mark, if they do at all, in the NHL. What you don't have very often is sixth rounders that turn into effective contributing regular players, certainly with the role of Appleton. And, I think back to when he was drafted in 2015, and that was quite the draft for the Winnipeg Jets. Kyle Connor picked in the first round. And then I think that was the year Sami Niku was actually taken in the 7th round, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was 7th rounder. But Appleton was an absolute steal in the 6th round. And, of course, was picked up in the expansion draft, didn't work out in Seattle, was reacquired, and has just found his spot, his niche on one of the top lines in the league. And, 300 games with the same team is a big milestone, and hopefully they can get a win tonight to celebrate it and send it off to Nashville in style.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, Mason Appleton, he's a free agent after this season. I think he's making over $2 million. I wonder what his next contract will be, and will it be with Winnipeg? This year, some big decisions for the Jets. They didn't really have to make any last year. And I think if they did move on from him, he's making $2.16 million this year. If they move on from him, I think they would definitely miss him. That would be a big hole. So is he due for a raise? Is he going to get a long-term deal? He's drafted by the Winnipeg Jets. They traded back for him. A huge part of that third line with Lowry and Niederreiter. Niederreiter re-upped last year. Appleton, only 28 years old. He's having a great season so far, 10 points in 19 games. Just one of the questions one of the players will be speculating about, into the end of the season and next one, Hustlers. So that line, great shutdown line, one of the best in the league, and looking to keep it going against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm so used to Crosby, the fear of Crosby playing against the Jets. I remember him scoring so many points, hitting milestones, as you said, 1 goal away from 600. Don't really have, as he's still an excellent player, but the team as a whole, just not what it was. And there they are, as we mentioned, bottom of the standings.
Yeah, that's kind of what makes them dangerous, though. I mean, this is going to be an absolutely desperate team that still has incredible leadership. But hey, the Jets have handled the best in the league so far this year. They just got to be ready to play tonight as they have been all season long. Quick update, though. I know Pittsburgh, we were hoping to see Rucker McGroarty. We had the Where's Rucker chance. He was in the American League. In case you were interested, 11 games into his American Hockey League career, Rucker has scored his first pro goal, has 2 assists for 3 points on the season. Probably a little ways away from cracking the lineup of the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. We're going to get Mike McIntyre on here in just a minute to join us. But listen, before Mike does, let me shout out and give a big thanks to our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you've got a move coming up to a next destination for you and your family, get the white glove treatment from Rolly's. Family owned and operated for over 60 years here in Manitoba, is the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, bar none. They've got this extensive logistics business, which is taking them and the Rolly's trucks around Winnipeg and the southern part of the province on a daily basis, which means regardless of where and when you're moving, flexible routes, flexible timing, and great rates on that move. What you're going to want to do is pop on over to their beautiful new website at rollies.com. You can find out more about their services, reviews, but at the top right corner, you can request an estimate. WST listeners, make sure to put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Let them know when and where you are moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote for you to give you and your family and all your precious belongings the white glove treatment on your way to your next destination. For your next move, make it Rollies, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. I saw a little bit of snow today. It still isn't on the ground, and we're luckier than our friends who are digging out in the western part of the province. But y'all, we know what's coming up. It's time to get ready for winter before winter gets you. No one likes freezing their ass off outside, trying to get a car started at minus 30 in the dead of winter. Manitoba Battery can help you avoid these frustrations before it's too late by getting your battery tested for free. Pop by either of their locations, Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive. They'll give you a free battery test. And if you do need a new battery, you'll save an additional $10 on top of the best battery prices in Manitoba. You can also prepare with booster cables. Great deals on boosters right now. 12 footers for $19.95, 25 footers for $59.95, and a 2,000 amp jump starter for $129.95. Keep warm, avoid frustration, and get ready before winter gets you. Manitoba Battery, with free home delivery on purchases over $60 and 2 convenient locations to serve you. Go to manitobabattery.com to get hooked up and get ready for winter. And hey, listen, next week's a big one. Black Friday. We got a Chiefs-Raider game on Black Friday, actually, in the afternoon, which I'm quite looking forward to. But for those of you that are looking into your closet and realize that it is time to up your menswear game with the holidays and 2025 just around the corner, now is the time to get to F Apparel, because beginning on Monday, I guess, it is the Black Friday sale from November 24th to December 22nd, and it is their biggest event of the year. Custom suits are starting at just $349.95. with ties from $19 and custom dress shirts from $49. You can shop online at F Apparel, that's EPHapparel.com, or pop down to their showroom, 190 Smith Street, to take advantage of these incredible deals. Don't miss your chance to suit up in style at the best prices of the year at the F Apparel Black Friday sale from November 24th until December 2nd. Again, EPHapparel.com online for more details and shopping online. And of course, you can also pop in and see him, as I would suggest, down at 190 Smith Street. Get fitted up and you'll be looking great for 2025. And hey, also, if you do need to up your menswear game, you might want to nudge that special someone and say an F Apparel gift card might be a great gift for under the tree. So you can step up your menswear game heading into 2025. All right, Mike McIntyre is going to join us in just a minute. Reem, one thing I did want to address, and we should do this right now so it doesn't get lost at the end of the show with marbles and talking NFL and all that. Can we talk about the Minnesota Wild putting out today the promotion of the whiteout? How the hell does the Jets' biggest rivals feel it is appropriate or kosher to do a whiteout promotion, which is the signature playoff promotion of the Winnipeg Jets? As we tweeted out, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but you got to be kidding me. The Wild doing the Jets playoff promo in the regular season? What the hell is going on?
The one thing that was great about the whiteout, Huss, that it was organic. They told everyone to wear a white shirt, and they did.
Every single person in the arena did.
And it wasn't, free giveaway T-shirt night whiteout. Everyone went. So, and it was also playoffs. It was for big games only. I guess snow is coming. They needed some type of a promo. It was interesting that they're doing this for the game on the 30th. That is a Saturday. Not on the game Monday where they host the Winnipeg Jets, because wouldn't that be strange if you watch the Jets Wild and everyone was wearing white. You'd think it was a Jets home game. I miss when Minnesota did the orange blaze hat night. When you watch the game and the Jets play them and everyone's wearing those orange hats. But interesting promo. I'm not going to say the Jets copyrighted snow, but I've seen these type of posters before, usually from the Jets Twitter account in April.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Wild. I mean, at a certain point, you got to do your own thing. And, I mean, this would be bad enough it was just any other team in the league that did it. But, I mean, the Jets and the Wild, they're their number one rival. I mean, like, are we going to start? Well, anyways, we won't go down this road. Feel free to hammer the Wild online if you would like to show your displeasure or just your thanks. As I said, imitation, the most sincerest form of flattery. And we'll talk Wild on Monday. You know what? We'll need to get Jesse on the program to set up the second matchup of the teams this season. The Wild actually have had an unbelievable start. They beat the Oilers last night. Remis, did you see that goal that Fleury let in to start the game?
Of course.
Oh, my God. Was that terrible? But, hey, good on Flower, who's making his 1,000th start in the NHL. As embarrassing as that goal was, he ended up holding the door the rest of the way. And the Wild are 13-3-3. Just 3 points back of the Winnipeg Jets. So huge matchup coming up on Monday. First things first, though, let's see what the Jets can do tonight in Pittsburgh and Nashville. Pittsburgh is where we go right now to welcome in Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. Mike, what's going on? Can you believe the Wild are doing a whiteout on the weekend? I mean, what is this world coming to?
You know, Huss, in the infamous words of the Beastie Boys, I guess the Jets and the Wild, you got to fight for your white to party. By the way, I just thought of that while we were just as you were talking about it. That's pretty much off the top of my head.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. And it is far better than Milli Vanilli, which we'll be waiting. Oh. We could be waiting. We could be getting Milli Vanilli Monday in the Twin Cities, of all things, against those Minnesota Wild coming up. But,
yeah.
I mean, what a game, what a performance by the team on Tuesday against the Florida Panthers. You get an extra day off, which they probably needed because this is a hectic, long, tough road trip, albeit, at least as far as the standings go, increasing in degree of difficulty as we go forth. Pittsburgh, last by points percentage in the Eastern Conference. Jets, number one in the league. Pittsburgh, the worst goal differential in the league. Jets, the best. But, I mean, those are all just numbers. Jets are still going to need to be ready to play a solid game against a team with some all-time Hall of Famers in the lineup, although nowhere close to the depth that Winnipeg is able to throw out line after shift.
Yeah, and I was fascinated by Mike Sullivan's decision this morning to announce that Tristan Jarry would be his starting goaltender. Huss, that's the same Tristan Jarry that was literally booed off the ice by his own fans on Tuesday night. It wasn't quite Marc-Andre Fleury level of misplay, but it was a bit of an ugly whiff in overtime. And Jarry has kind of been, he's taken his share of criticism here in Pittsburgh. He's had a horrible season. His numbers are just awful. And in fact, he got sent to the American Hockey League to try and get his game and I think his head in a right place on a conditioning assignment. And he's back, and it hasn't looked a whole lot better. What could go wrong tonight? I mean, we've actually seen this story. How many times have you seen this story where you expect it to go one way? Watch Jarry put in an all-world performance tonight and look like the second coming. That being said, if I'm the Jets, part of my game plan tonight, Huss, would be to shoot early and often against a goaltender who I imagine his confidence is dangling by a thread at this point, especially in enemy or in I was going to say enemy territory. Home probably feels like enemy territory right now to Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, that's probably a team that could use a nice long road trip like the Jets have right now. But no, they'll be in front of their fans who haven't had much to cheer about this year. And yeah, just to your point, I mean, Jari's only been in 5 games. He's 1-2-1. He's got a goals against nearing 5 and a save percentage at 8.3. He's the guy making the money. Ned's been in and has played the majority of recent games. Blomqvist has actually been their best goaltender.
Yeah.
But for Tristan Jarry, he better be full marks for Pittsburgh's sake, because if not, you got a team that's coming in scoring as many as anyone in the NHL and coming off a big performance against the Panthers on Tuesday night, a real get-right game for Winnipeg that I think set them off onto the road in a really good state of mind after those 2 previous losses.
Oh, it was. And Huss, I think we were on Tuesday on this show, a few hours before that game. And I stand by what I said, which was that I actually thought the losses in Florida could be a very good thing for this Jets team. And now one game is not enough to make a declarative statement, that's for sure. That being said, I do really like how the Jets came out and responded. They said all the right things, but more importantly, they did all the right things against the very same team. And don't be mistaken, it's not like the Panthers were terrible on Tuesday, not at all. They fought like heck, and in fact, I thought they were the better team maybe in the first half of that first period. Connor Hellebuck was great. The Jets then started to take over that game, but as we saw, the Panthers didn't go away easily. And I thought that was a great test for Winnipeg, and I thought, the Jets showed us quite a bit about who and what they are. But as Scott Arniel has preached, it's kind of become the motto around this hockey team. They don't languish in the losses, and of course they haven't had many to languish over, but they also don't revel in the wins very long. They move on, and that's a good thing for a team that now faces 6 road games here in the next 10 nights, starting tonight. This is quite a stretch of schedule they're in. If you actually add it up, sort of looking back to the last road trip and even ahead to the next one after this, because there's just one game homestands on either side of this 6-gamer. The Jets are playing 11 of 13 on the road, and this is an incredible stat to me. The Jets are going to play 15 straight games where they're never in the same city for more than one game, that they're constantly going somewhere else. And that includes their home city of Winnipeg. 15 games, that's almost, that's getting up to a quarter of the season. So, they can't get too comfortable anywhere. But I think what we've seen with this Jets team under Scott Arniel, he's not allowing anybody to get comfortable. Even though they put themselves in what would be deemed a comfortable spot with the points they've banked, you don't get the sense that this team is satisfied. And, they're going to want to start this road trip out right, because as you point out, Huss, it's, things get tougher as they go forward here. And certainly the last 4 games of the trip, at least on paper, would appear to be tougher than the first 2 games. But they certainly can't overlook this home and home, especially with what they have coming up next week.
No, and, when you look around the league, the Jets are number 1 overall in the NHL. The number 2 team is the Minnesota Wild, right, who they'll see on Monday and is only 3 points. So as well as they played, it's not like they're sitting on this massive cushion right now in the Central Division. I'm just staying with Pittsburgh. Like, Sidney Crosby's still playing at a really high level. Evgeny Malkin's had a great start to the season.
Point a game, both those guys, yep.
Man, is there a drop-off after those 2 dudes that have been driving the bus for Pittsburgh for 15 years?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Edmonton and the Draisaitl-McDavid conundrum. Do you play them together and, put all your eggs in one basket? And Mike Sullivan actually briefly was doing that. They're back apart now, at least to start tonight's game. They're the first and second line centers, but it's kind of like, in case of emergency, what we see they do in Edmonton all the time. When things are going well, they put McDavid and Draisaitl together. And part of that, Huss, is because kind of like Edmonton, they don't seem to have a huge supporting cast here. They just traded Lars Eller, who was their third line center, and it was off to a nice start. There's a lot of rumbling here in Pittsburgh that more moves could be coming. This is a team, they started the year with the expectation that they were going to compete for a Stanley Cup. Now, some people may have said that's ridiculous. Look at their lineup. But, Kyle Dubas was brought in to build around the core. Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson. And there's not going to be a rebuild here. They're trying to, I guess, retool on the fly. But the standings would certainly suggest that this is a team that's kind of spinning its wheels. They haven't played since Tuesday, just like the Jets. They lost in overtime that night. Excuse me. And from all the reports of their last two practices here in Pittsburgh, Wednesday and yesterday, they've been very intense. This is a team, and Scott Arneal told me this morning, we just saw this in Tampa and Florida, where the Jets were getting teams who had a bit of a sour taste in their mouth after their previous outings. The Jets are going to get another one tonight. Now, granted, this Penguins team doesn't look as deep as the Lightning and the Panthers, but the Jets better be prepared to see a desperate Pittsburgh team.
Mike, I'm sure you would have talked to Dan and some of the other Pittsburgh media. How much heat is on Mike Sullivan heading into this weekend right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's and when you get a coach like Jim Montgomery, who's suddenly on the open market, right? I got to think that you may even have coaches that didn't think their seat was all that hot now feeling like it's warming up a bit. I mean, I think what Mike Sullivan has going for him, and just talking to people here and around the league, is Sidney Crosby loves him. And, Sidney Crosby has a lot of say in what's going on here. And maybe that's part of why there hasn't been a change. But you do wonder, I mean, look, every single coach has a shelf life, even the greatest of all time. At some point, the message grows stale and a change is needed. And you do wonder, how close are they getting to that stage here in Pittsburgh? As the old saying goes, you can't change the whole team. They made the Eller deal. We'll see if there's some others to come. But again, this isn't rebuild. They're trying to win. And so, yeah, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of heat on Sullivan and really everyone in the organization.
Mike, the Jets looking to go 17-3 tonight, 20th game of the season, and the 300th game as a Winnipeg Jet for Mason Appleton. And I Barry Horowitz myself earlier on. I got in, and it seemed strange that I had to take up the case of, like, wait a second, why is everyone on Mason Appleton's case? He's coming off a career season last year. He's on. It seems like, I mean, listen, his story is great. I mean, a 6th-round pick that ended up coming out maybe a little earlier than we'd thought, immediately making a big impact in the American Hockey League. He was the Rookie of the Year the same year Sami Niku was the Defenseman of the Year. They were 6th and 7th rounders in the 2015 draft, which also produced Kyle Connor. Jansen Harkins was the 2nd rounder, who, of course, is on the other side now. But just thoughts on Appleton, the season he's had so far, and just the spot that he has fit into and how effective he has been as a part of that Lowry line, which has been a juggernaut for a couple seasons now.
That draft, by the way, also produced one-time AHL Defenseman of the Year, Sami Niku, and current 11-goal scorer, Jack Roslovic of the Carolina Hurricanes. That's right, 11.
Oh, of course, Roslovic was later on. He was the 25th pick after Kyle Connor went at 17.
That was quite a draft. The 2015 draft was quite something for the Jets. Roslovic, by the way, is going for the NHL Cy Young Huss. He's got 11 goals and 1 assist. He's 11-1 this year. I guess he's holding on to the puck a lot in Carolina. But yeah, I mean, Mason Appleton, look, he is a key member of the identity line of the NHL's number 1 team. And like, that's the kind of line that every other team in the league would love to have, to be able to throw a trio like Lowry, Niederreiter, and Appleton over the boards to play against the other team's best, and not just hold their own, but sometimes take the play to the other team's best. And we've seen at times, no, it's not always consistent and nor should it be. That's not Mason Appleton's job. You're not expecting him to light the lamp with the regularity of the Kyle Connors and the Nikolai Ehlers and the Mark Scheifele's. But he can put the puck in the net. He's got great hands, but he does a lot of other things. Can play physical, kill penalties, block shots, be a great teammate, defensive awareness. And yeah, it was a funny moment actually in the locker room this morning, Huss, here in Pittsburgh. Mason Appleton actually did not know that he was about to play his 300th game with Winnipeg tonight. You can maybe understand why he would have lost track of that a bit, since this is his second stint with Winnipeg. Of course, he went to Seattle in the expansion draft, and then the Jets brought him back. So it hasn't been 300 continuous games, but it was the astute Mitch Clinton who pointed out to Appleton as we stood at his locker that tonight was 300. He said, "Oh, is it really?" And Adam Lowry, his line mate and buddy, and the captain of the Jets, who's in the very next stall, his ears perked up when he heard that, and he said, "Oh, that's going to be expensive." So I suspect Mason Appleton, and you can thank Mitch Clinton for this, is probably going to get stuck with the bill on one of these team dinners. And there's lots of opportunity for team dinners over the next 10 days since they're all stuck together on the road. But yeah, Mason may be paying for that milestone.
Do you know, like the team's obviously going to travel to Nashville after this game tonight.
Yeah.
Will they travel after the Nashville game to the Twin Cities, or will they maybe give the fellas a few hours to let out some steam on Broadway and then do it on Sunday?
Yeah, they are off on Sunday. They're not skating. That's a good question. I actually don't know off the top of my head, Huss, if they're going to overnight in Nashville. Wouldn't surprise me. Again, because
if you win both, you get to party in Nashville.
Maybe they've got 2 tickets. They got 2 plane tickets. It's the equivalent of the U2 concert for last year in Nashville. Of course, things were going quite different in Nashville when Andrew Brunette pulled the U2 concert out of off the itinerary. But yeah, that's a good question. I do know this, Huss. The Jets make 2 trips to Nashville this year. They're both on the back end of back-to-back. So if there's any concerns that the Jets, and I remember last year, what a difference. Last year, the Jets had a road trip where I believe they played in Mini. And then I think they had like 2 days off before they then played the next game in Nashville. Rick Bowness ordered them to come home so they went Mini back to Winnipeg. It was like the Simpsons episode. That's it, back to Winnipeg. And then they went to Nashville the day before the game rather than spend 2 days in Nash Vegas, as many call it. So that was strategic. And so, but if you don't have to worry, I guess, about the Jets getting too much time ahead of puck drop in Nashville, because this time they're playing tonight in Pittsburgh. And I think in January, I believe they're in Ottawa, and then they're playing the next night in Nashville. So yeah, there could be a stay on Saturday night because they don't return to the ice till Monday morning in St. Paul for the morning skate. They're not going to skate on Sunday.
Mike, as far as the roster goes, no changes to the lineup, no surprises. The way the team played against the Florida Panthers. We got the update that Logan Stanley's still not a part of practice. He's skating just to try to keep his legs out.
Yeah.
The guy that is playing, though, is Ville Heinola. I mean, the Moose got worked yesterday, 5-0. But by all accounts, played well, played a lot yesterday. He'll do the same thing tomorrow. And then join the team on Sunday in the Twin Cities. If you had to guess, when does Ville make his NHL debut for the Jets this season?
Monday.
Monday, yeah, right in?
I think so. I really do. Now, maybe it'll depend if they have 2 great games this weekend, tonight and tomorrow. Maybe he's got to wait another game. Maybe Scott Arniel, the Wild, can play a heavy game. Maybe he decides to hold off. I just think from everything Scott Arniel said and just the feeling around everything, I think they want to get Ville in ASAP. As long as he comes out of tomorrow's game with the Moose tomorrow afternoon at Canada Life Center feeling okay. I'll be surprised if he's not in the lineup in Hayden Fleury's spot on Monday. Logan Stanley, he's not going to be ready to play at all on this road trip. In fact, he was doing very little. Like I would describe it more as leisurely type skate today. So I think he's got a ways to go. We don't even know what his injury is. It's mid-body. We can speculate, of course. No sense doing that. But whatever it is, he's gonna need some time. I think Billy gets the runway here as early as Monday to play a stretch of hockey, and will be really interesting to see how different does that change the dynamic of the back end. The Jets. One thing I think we can all agree on, Huss, the Jets are not. They don't need him to come in and be Superman. They don't need him to come in and save them. There were maybe times, last year where you could look at, excuse me, the way the team was playing and say, well, geez, they could really use an injection of a player like that. I mean, they're 16-3. There's not a whole lot that's gone wrong. They're getting all kinds of production from their defensemen. Their power play is red hot. So I think and maybe that's a good thing. Like Billy doesn't have to come in and think that he has to do it all or, somehow pick this team up from the ground. Like,
no, he's got to go in and prove that he's a regular NHLer.
Exactly.
Can help this team win hockey games and, be a better option than the other guys that they've had here that have played very well, that have helped them get to this point. I mean, I would argue it's maybe a more challenging position to come into because of what's been happening while he's been on the mend. And all they've been doing is winning 16 of their first 19 games. And we'll see what happens tonight. Hey, just
just quick. The one thing I'll be watching for with Billy is the physicality of it. Like, I think when we see the Jets play teams like Florida, you come away from some of those games and you think Jets could maybe use a little more size on the back end, right? They get pushed around a bit. Billy's going to have to hold his own when it comes to those. And that's why, if they put him in a game like Minnesota, that'll be a great test. Like throw him right into the fire, see what he can do against a big, heavy divisional opponent.
I'm not sure whether Arnie said as much or whether he was asked, but Helly tonight, we know that. Yeah. Eric Comrie tomorrow night against the Preds.
Yeah, I say that's the lock of the day. Huss, Eric was actually out with Wade Flaherty quite early today, doing some working out and some on ice stuff, which would almost be like because he knows he's playing tomorrow. What I wonder is that Eric Comrie's only start on this road trip? Do they run Connor Hellebuck for the other four? Then what do they do when they come back for that one against St. Louis, and then they go on the road for two more? I don't think the Jets want to go more than like 5 or so games in a row with Connor Hellebuck without getting Eric Comrie a start. So, this tomorrow, I think that would be his 5th start of the year. He's coming off a loss in his last one, won his first 3. So, yeah, I mean, I think look for him to, on average, be playing, every 6th game. So whether there's another, I think Connor Hellebuck probably gets the rest of the road trip after tomorrow night. But yeah, I suspect Eric Comrie comes in. And then the other thing I wonder, Huss, like, even if they play well tonight, do we possibly see one of like David Gustafson or Dylan Coghlan, like just for the sake of fresh legs and using the guys? And I don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't think Scott Arniel knows the answer. He kind of admitted the other day, he didn't admit to lying, but he said, I've been saying I want to work these guys in, but he said, I've had a hard time doing that. And the Jets have been playing well. It's hard to break that up, but they may want to do that at some point.
Mike, thanks so much for doing this. We will look forward to all of your writings in the Winnipeg Free Press tomorrow, again throughout the weekend and the road trip, and look forward to catching up with you next week as this marathon road trip continues.
I packed a big suitcase and I'm 1 for 1 out of 6 airports. They have not lost it yet. I'm not. I've convinced myself it's getting lost at some point here along the way. So hopefully I still have my luggage when we touch base next week.
Couldn't pull it off with just a carry-on, huh?
I had debated it. I really did. That would have required probably doing a lot of laundry on the road. Ultimately, I went against it. I may come to regret that.
What a diva. What a diva. Mike, thanks for doing this, pal. We'll talk to you next week. Travel safe and enjoy these games on the weekend.
Only 2 pairs of shoes, by the way. You bet. Take care.
Not bad. Not bad. All right. There's Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. All right. We're going to have Jeff Marek come on in just a moment. But a huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Bombers. That was where Mike O'Shea met the media today. We've got a couple clips from Mike, which we'll play a little later on. But right now, as we get ready for the holidays, right now is the best time of the year to get down to Princess Auto and take advantage of all the great deals on the Mega Smasher sale, which is underway right now through December 1st, offering you the greatest deals of the season on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Princess Auto, ideas and tools. Best deals of the season. Go to princessauto.com. You can click on the flyer and see everything that they're blowing out right now as part of the Mega Smasher sale. And listen, I know Dan, Jets fan, and so many others in the chat, they always talk about how Princess Auto is their favorite store. Well, now's a great time to get down there. And as I said, whether you're looking at gift cards for the holidays or some great deals on things that'll go great under the tree, no better place to do it. The 2-week Mega Smasher sale on right now. 3 locations in Manitoba, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the Peg, and of course, Brandon for our friends out on the western part of the province as well. Megasmasher.ca, princessauto.ca for more information on the sale. Well, the weekend is here. We're just about going to be getting into Christmas party season, if you can believe that. And what perfect timing for our friends at Canadian Club to release the second issue of the Invitation Series, the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof, which is available now at your local Manitoba liquor marts. It's Canadian Club's first ever 18-year-old whiskey. This elevated expression offers the well-known, smooth, well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-body tasting experience. And Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof was awarded gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. Now, here's the thing. It's a one-time release, and there are limited quantities available. So, for entertaining at the holidays, for enjoying yourself, and as a perfect gift for that whiskey lover in your circle, now's the time to get down and get it before it's gone at a special price of $79.95. It won't be around for long. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and ask for the Invitation Series Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof, available now while supplies last at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And hey, a big thanks to our friends at Wallace & Wallace for their wonderful support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Since 1946, Wallace & Wallace has been the go-to spot for fencing and overhead doors. Of course, they're the leaders in fencing, and if you need the security and protection of a new fence, they have you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you have a need for a garage door, make sure to talk to Wallace & Wallace, because they've got the largest selection of overhead garage doors in the city, which of course means that they can find the best match for your home to look beautiful and add value to your home as well. What you're going to want to do is give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come down and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online at wallacedoors.com, wallacefences.com, or pop by and see them in person at their showroom on Lawson Crescent, just off of Kenniston. Wallace & Wallace, pop by today to check them out and for all your fencing and overhead door needs. All right. Billeck's going to join us a little later on. Hacksaw as well. We've got a marble race, but really excited to welcome in, I believe for the first time in WST history, Jeff Marek, who's got an exciting new show starting next month. Let's welcome Jeff Marek in WST now. Jeff, how are you?
Hustler, what's going on today? A pleasure. The pleasure is all mine to be on with you. How's it going, bud?
You know what? Hey, things are good in the Peg right now. I mean, the Jets are rolling. The vibes are high in the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat on a daily basis. And listen, we're looking forward to a back-to-back this week against a couple teams that actually have had very, very disappointing starts in Pittsburgh and Nashville.
Yes.
You know, I want to talk about the junior hockey scenario landscape that's changing, certainly the upcoming Four Nations, but I mean, it's been a minute since we heard from you. How about those Jets? What have you thought about the 16-3 start?
First of all, I love this story. Anyone that's known me for any length of time knows my affinity for this organization and this team. And there's a lot of players, you know, you know this, Hustler, like when you work in this industry, even if you don't cheer for teams, you can cheer for a lot of players. And there's a lot of players on that Winnipeg Jets team that I have a lot of time for. But by and large, I'll tell you what, here's who I feel best for. Winnipeg Jets fans who are easily, and again, we saw it this year, with Jake Ottinger, the most creative fans in the NHL, full stop, period, last call, lights on, everybody get out of the saloon. This is a fan base that, you know, from Ontario, you know, I used to play in this hockey league, which was all artists. It was like musicians, it was comedians, and by and large, like so many people in this league were from Manitoba, specifically Winnipeg. And what they kept impressing upon me is they kept saying, like, you don't understand it. Like, one of the best kept artistic and creative secrets in this country is Winnipeg, and the entire province are some of the most creative people in Canada. And I'm so glad that we see that spelled out in hockey. No fan base do better chants. No fan base does better insults. Like, there's always a standard, oh, ref, you suck. Like, okay, well, I'll move on. Like, Winnipeg Jets fans take it to a whole new creative level. Like, they've thought about this, and they all get on board. These are the people that I feel best about with Winnipeg's great start. Listen, I feel great for Kevin Cheveldayoff because with wins comes fans. With wins comes success. And even though they're not going to continue on playing like this, much like the Carolina Hurricanes aren't going to continue this torrid start, there's going to be, you know, a little bit of regression here coming up, I think, for both teams. What the Winnipeg Jets are doing is they're banking points for the dark days on the horizon. Like, they're going to go through a losing streak. They're going to go on a streak where they lose, 6 of 7. It's going to happen. But what they're doing is making that buffer. They have a points buffer right now. I know you can't say you can make the playoffs in November, but look at it right now. Barring a major collapse, the Winnipeg Jets have already made the playoffs.
Well, and you know what's funny, Jeff, is that, this team was 4th overall last year, but everyone remembered how they got steamrolled in those 4 games after winning game 1 against Colorado. And it's quite clear that they were chewing on it, and it has motivated and driven them as a team. But at the same time, it seemed like most of the hockey world had written this team off before they even dropped a puck on the season.
And, I think a lot of that is, and sometimes the best moves you make are the ones that you don't. I know that there's a lot of reasons, but Kevin Cheveldayoff is also a very patient general manager. There was the coach decision, of course, but, Kevin Cheveldayoff is a candidate for the general manager of the year, as is Eric Tulsky in Carolina. Kevin Cheveldayoff, from a roster construction, player person, all of that, he didn't do anything this summer. Like, there was nothing, there was no major surgery, Cole Perfetti's got a solid spot. Some players left that were rentals. But by and large, Kevin Cheveldayoff, to your point, Hustler, looked at this and said, this is still a very good team. Why am I gonna tinker with this thing until there's any specific need to do so? I don't want to take this thing off the road. I don't want to steer this thing into the ditch. This is still a really good team. And we get to, insert a sort of injection of youth. Like, I'm a big Cole Perfetti guy. Hustler, I love this kid. I love him for a lot of reasons. I watch him a lot in junior. And then I love that he was the Dale Hawerchuk pick. After, the greatest Winnipeg Jet of all time passed away, was his wife that made the pick. It was a beautiful family moment. So I've always had that. And Dale was always one of my favorite hockey players. I've always had that sort of emotional, maybe he's irrational, but that emotional attachment to Cole Perfetti through the Hawerchuk family. And just seeing, what the future is for the Winnipeg Jets with players like Cole Perfetti, who wants to be there for a long time. Like, I'm of the belief that if they put 8 years in front of him in the summer and it wasn't a bridge deal, he would have looked at it and said, like, that's the number for me. Like, I want to be here a long time. Cheveldayoff has been impressive here. And I know you look at some GMs and, you got to stay active. You got to keep moving. You don't want any rust to start on the team. But he's realized this is a good squad, and I'm not going to move it an inch to the left or an inch to the right. It's a good team. And by the way, it helps when you have Connor Hellebuck as well.
Yeah, 2 Vezinas and counting right now, considering the way that he's played so far. And I mean, it's helped the blue line. I mean, Neil Pionk seems like a different player this year.
Doesn't he?
Well, for sure. And Dylan Sandberg, and it's crazy. Both of these guys from a small town, the same small town in Minnesota. Yeah. But Sandberg moving up to the second pairing has completely taken the added responsibility and ran with it. And it's made Neil a better player. And the Jets really needed that because we've seen him play at a high level, very inconsistent. And I think dealing with injuries the last couple of years, which has hurt him. And he's been great.
Can I mention one thing here? Whenever I talk about the Winnipeg Jets, I always try to go out of my way to mention one person, and that is Rick Bowness. Now, this is Scott Arniel's team. We all know that. He's got 2 hands on the wheel. This is his squad. But, much like he did in Dallas before Pete DeBoer took over, I know not a lot of players necessarily enjoy the discipline of how Rick Bowness coaches or expects his players to play. Like, I'll just flat out, a lot of what Rick Bowness wants players to do isn't fun. Okay. But there's I look at the Winnipeg Jets this year, and it all starts with this defensive foundation that, of course, Scott Arniel was on the bench for as well. But I look at it and I say, all of this is possible because they have built into them a defensive responsibility that was placed there by Rick Bowness. Like, I don't know that we talk enough about, the good that Rick Bowness has done around the NHL for the number of years that he was with the league, whether it was, helping, turn Victor Hedman into someone who was skeptical and cynical about coaches into, one of the best defensemen of this generation, to what he did in a very difficult time for the Dallas Stars. And how he got them to play a more responsible brand of hockey, and he's done so as well, I think, for the Winnipeg Jets. There's still the sort of the ghost of bones here, Hustler, on the Winnipeg Jets squad, as I see it, because I think the foundation of this entire team is they're really responsible defensively. It's real simple, right? Puck goes in, puck goes out. Puck goes in, puck goes out. Like, that's the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, he authored the biggest culture change in the history of this franchise in the 2.0 era, and it's not even close. Yeah. And you saw last week when the Jets were down in Florida, when he popped in to see the team, just how much the group from Scott Arniel to the players still love the guy. And you were definitely right. Hey, while we're on the Jets, you mentioned Cole Perfetti with the connection to Dale Hawerchuk. I mean, Mark Scheifele was the first one that, of course, played for him and was the Jets' first ever draft pick. Yeah. 2 years ago, I think many of us thought that he was going to be elsewhere. And he signed the contract. All of that's in the rearview mirror. And he has been, he's certainly been a different player the last couple of seasons, especially this year. What have you thought of Scheifele leading the way for Winnipeg? And will he be a member of Canada and the Four Nations, along with potentially Josh Morrissey?
Oh, wow. I'm glad we're going to get the Four Nations, because there's one point that I think we might sort of all be sleeping on here, but want to get that get to that in a second, Hustler. The thing that I see about Mark Scheifele's game, since he played for the Barrie Colts in the OHL, Winnipeg 2.0's first ever draft pick, when everybody in Winnipeg was screaming for Sean Couturier, and they ended up taking, what is this Mark Scheifele guy? We wanted Sean Couturier. Look who's laughing now. It's the Winnipeg Jets, and they have been for a number of years. Here's what I like about Scheifele. Scheifele's game continues to get better and more detailed. Part of that is the Winnipeg Jets. Part of that is Mark Scheifele himself, and a large part of that is Adam Oates. A large part of that is Adam Oates. And I'll tell you a story. There was a game, was it 2 or 3 years ago? I was watching, I think it was Minnesota and the New York Rangers. And one of the Minnesota players, might have been Matt Zuccarello, stepped over the blue line, and Jacob Trouba, I think it was Trouba, just crunched him. Like classic Jacob Trouba hit. And I was on my way to a gold medal ceremony for Aaron Ambrose, gold medal defenseman for Team Canada. I was up in her hometown of Keswick, and I was talking to Adam Oates on the phone, and we were talking about that hit. And he said, well, it's really simple. Like, everyone could see that coming. I'm like, how do you see that? Like, I don't understand how that happens at the NHL level. And he said, pull your car over and pull up the hit. So he walked through the hit with me. And what he kept coming to is, when the zone entry was made, the player only had one hand on his stick. And when he got hit, it was the exact moment that he put his bottom hand on the stick. And when he put his bottom hand on the stick, his head went down, albeit for a brief second. And that's where I want to take it to Mark Scheifele. Adam Oates told me he does this drill with a lot of his players, and he works with high-end guys, right? Like this is like Mark Scheifele, like Jack Eichel, like superstars, like multi-million-dollar players. And he says he does this one drill with them that drives them crazy. They hate it, but Adam Oates' idea is you should never get a concussion playing hockey. It is possible to concussion-proof your game. He says, what I do with a lot of these guys, and this is where I want to get the tiny details with Mark Scheifele and all of Adam Oates' clients. What he does, Hustler, can you imagine this? On the ice, standing still, top hand on your stick. What he does is he has the guys practice putting their bottom hand on the stick and not putting their eyes down. It's a natural instinct. You know, everybody listening, watching right now to your show right now, think to yourself, when's the last time you grabbed the stick with your bottom hand and you didn't put your head down, albeit for a brief second? And the guys hate it. And Adam Oates' point is always the same. Do you want to do this drill, or do you want to be out of the lineup for a few months with a concussion? He says it's tiny little things like that. And you see it all over the game that all of the Adam Oates clients do. And I see Mark Scheifele as someone who, you know, even though he's not 23 years old anymore, he's still evolving his game. We all know how much he gobbles up. There's some guys that watch hockey when their season is over, and there are some that don't want anything to do with it. Scheifele, as you know, Hustler, is a 24/7 dyed-in-the-wool hockey guy. He pays attention to details now because he's still in his mind needs to improve and get better. And that's why I love Mark Scheifele.
He might watch as much hockey as anybody in the NHL.
I agree.
To be honest with
I
you.
agree.
And I guess part of that, Jeff, is I think, and we're seeing in his play, and particularly that, statement game earlier this week against the Panthers with that hat trick. It seems like he is possessed right now to prove that he belongs with Canada's best on that team in February.
Absolutely. To the point about Team Canada, I always I look at the philosophy of Hockey Canada and how their philosophy going back a number of years has changed from, you know, construct this like an NHL team with four distinct forward lines and three distinct, you know, defense pairs, whereas, you know, the philosophy for success now more so than ever is skill adapts. And I look at Team Canada or speculate on Team Canada, and I say to myself, okay, the thing about Scheifele is, you know, not only can he play center, but he's quite happy on a team like this playing wing as well, following the motto, skill adapts. For me, I have Mark Scheifele on Team Canada. I don't know that he ends up being there. I do wonder, considering this is a really quick tournament, I wonder if, and this is where I'll go back to another Winnipeg, I wonder if there's a place in this tournament for Adam Lowry, as we talk about a place for Brandon Hagel, as we talk about a place for Tom Wilson. Now, I wonder in a short tournament like this, if you look at someone like Adam Lowry and say, that guy could be really important here for a team.
Well, I cannot wait. We got less than 2 weeks until we hear who's named to the team. And I'm sure the first week of the new show will be dominated by Four Nations talk.
It's going to be a lot.
Jeff, one other thing while we have you on, you have covered and been on top of junior hockey and hockey development as well as anybody in the space for a number of years. There's been some significant changes south of the border to eligibility for NCAA hockey players. It's going to affect the Canadian Hockey League. It will affect the NHL, and it will affect development. I mean, this is a big, wide-ranging, but in a nutshell, can you dumb it down for people that maybe aren't aware of what's happened and how this is going to play out here in Canada, particularly amongst the CHL and, for instance, around here for teams like the Brandon Wheat Kings?
It's funny, too, because whenever I talk to anybody about this and they explain something to me, I always say to them the same thing you just said to me, essentially, talk to me like I'm 5. Because this one is, like, there's a real fog over all of it, and we really don't know exactly what it's going to look like, this new development model. But for your listeners and viewers, Hustler, so essentially, NCAA has changed their definition of a CHL player. This is CHL players without NHL contracts, and that's the caveat. So if you don't have an NHL contract, you are now eligible to compete in Division I NCAA hockey, which means from a development point of view, players could leave the CHL early. You're playing in Medicine Hat, you're playing in Brandon with the Wheat Kings, you're playing Lethbridge or Swifty or whatever. You can leave now to go play in NCAA Division I. So what does that mean for this redefinition? It means it's tough times for the BCHL. They were essentially a super tier 2 league. They were essentially a super junior A league that was drawing players from all over Canada. And we're starting to see an attrition. I guess the highest profile player that has left there to join the Kitchener Rangers of the OHL is Jack Pridham, a third-round draft pick of the Chicago Blackhawks. We expect there to be more. The USHL has seen some attrition now. Some players, mainly Canadian, but some Americans as well, have left that league to go to major junior hockey in the CHL. So right away, a short term, as we look for winners and losers, the CHL are getting more and more players in the league from the BCHL and the USHL. Long term, it's a better development model for players, specifically the elite players, and specifically players that are caught in that, well, he's probably too good for the CHL, but he's not eligible to play in the American Hockey League yet, and he's not quite there for the NHL. Now they have a college option. Now they can go play, Nodak or Minnesota or BU or BC, Colorado, wherever. From a development point of view, it's wonderful. I wonder about junior hockey operators in this country and what it means if you start to see star players leaving early to go to NCAA. We know how much, they rely on quality 19-year-olds in the CHL. You do wonder if the CHL starts to skew younger because of it. Instead of being a 16 to 20 league, is it a 15 to 19 league? We wonder what this is going to mean for the CHL NHL agreement. We wonder what this is going to mean even for the NHL draft. What we're seeing right now is seismic change, Hustler, in the development model. And you're right. The effects will be felt not just from leagues, not just from players, not just the NHL, not just operators. Fans will have different experiences as well. And all of this has to be settled and sorted out by next August. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, I'm particularly just, from an NHL perspective, interested to see what happens with, the CHL agreement. We've seen a guy like Colby Barlow who, had to go back to junior this year. And this has happened a number of times when the Jets have taken players that might not be ready for the NHL.
Yep.
And unlike a Chaz Lucius who signs a contract, he can go right into play with the Manitoba Moose.
Yep.
That hasn't been the case. And I wouldn't be surprised if that does get changed at some point in the relatively near future.
Can I make that's an excellent point? The NHL, as long as there was a lawsuit that's sort of started the ball rolling here. As long as there's a lawsuit, the NHL is not getting involved. Once the lawsuit goes away, Hustler, then I expect, to be honest with you, Hustler, I kind of expect, and this will fall into the in the dossier of Bill Daly, the deputy commissioner. I expect the NHL to kind of come in and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is, they'll sort of consult with the CHL, USHL, NCAA, all of it. But I wonder if at the end of all of this, all of these decisions are going to be made in large part by one of the leagues that helps pay the freight, and that's the NHL.
Jeff Marek is with us. Jeff, it's so great to have you back. Cannot wait for the new show, and it's great to have you on the program. Fill people in again on the sheet, where and when it drops, and how they can find it on a daily basis. Okay, so right now I've got a sort of teaser preview up there with an interview with Dan McKenzie, the president of the CHL. Shot that a couple of days ago in a downtown Toronto restaurant. Also, the show itself, the Daily Show, kicks off on December the 2nd at our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. That'll be live in and around an hour. Hustler's an hour-ish. I'm sort of telling people we'll see what the news of the day brings. The nice thing about it is I'm not sort of married to any specific the beauty
format.
of the space, Jeff.
Oh, buddy, you know it, bud. You know the deal. There's so much freedom involved in it. And then it's going to be available wherever you get your podcasts. So your Apple Pods, your Spotifys, etc.
Cannot wait for it, Jeff. Thanks so much. Best of luck with the new show, and say hi to the DFO guys. Really looking forward to this getting going.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for your time and your audience's attention. I really appreciate it, Hustler. Buzz back anytime.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, big cheers for the weekend to our friends at Little Brown Jug. You can pop by and see them on William Avenue. Of course, grab the great taste of Little Brown Jug at your local beer vendor or Manitoba Liquor Marts. You can also find it at BP Polo Park and select Boston Pizzas throughout Manitoba. And as we get ready for the holidays, BP is ready. And check out these deals we've got right now. Speaking of Black Friday, right now, when you buy a $50 Boston Pizza gift card, you'll receive a free $10 bonus card. And if you're purchasing $1,000 in gift cards or more, you'll receive an additional 10% in gift cards. So if you have a long gift list or need to buy for your company or office, that's a 30% bonus on gift card orders of $1,000 or more. And of course, BP is a great place to have your holiday party as well. You can try the new holiday menu in the dining room or have a casual party in the sports bar or have the BP catering team set up and serve at your office. We are actually going to be trying a couple of the new additions to the holiday menu on the show next week. And join us next week on Winnipeg Sports Talk for your chance to win a $50 BP gift card. Of course, BP will be a great place to be tonight and tomorrow for the Jets, Penguins tonight, Jets, Preds tomorrow. Pick a player contest and a chance to win great swag from BP at Royal Sports whenever the Winnipeg Jets are playing at Boston Pizza. And of course, speaking of Royal Sports swag, Black Friday coming up, massive sales and deals next week at Royal Sports. And listen, we all know this. Royal Sports is the ultimate superstore for sports fans and players. If you want to take care of that entire list with one trip, you can probably get it done at Royal. For the Jets and Bomber fans, they've got you covered with the biggest selection of our home team merchandise in town, all the NFL gear, National Hockey League, international soccer, you name it. Not to mention so many great items to get outside and get active in the winter, including skates, full hockey equipment, sticks. They are the hockey superstore, right down to pucks, stick tape, and skate sharpening. Check them out in person, Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And you'll also be able to check them out online for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and holiday gift ideas on Instagram. Give them a follow at Royal Sports Winnipeg. Just before Scott Billeck joins us, do want to give a shout out to our friends at Fans First and check out the fan feedback after that great segment with Jeff Marek. Fan feedback is brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Your best option for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets with no added fees. What you see on the site is what you pay. And as a season ticket holder, on the odd occasion I can't use my seats, it is by far the best source to sell your tickets with the best in customer service and payment the very next day after the game. Let's get to the chat because there was lots coming in. Steiner, they should have never got rid of Jeff. Awesome interview. We've got all sorts of good luck with the new show to Jeff. Way to go. Love Jeff Marek on the program. Steiner says greetings from Ottawa as well. Marek is correct. And some other interesting comments on just what we talked about the end. A seismic change indeed to junior hockey in Canada. And of course, there still will be, this is going to be a 1 or 2 year process, I think, to finally get to the point where the new norm is set. But rest assured that with the NCAA changes are coming to junior hockey rules in Canada. And I would imagine the eventual change will be 19-year-olds from the Canadian Hockey League will eventually be able to play in the American Hockey League if they feel that they're great. all sorts of stuff coming in from the Marek spot. And then Bridget says, I don't want to have Binnington represent Canada in 4 nations. I don't even want people to know he's Canadian. That's the sort of fan feedback we love here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Again, fan feedback is brought to you by Fans First and fanfirst.ca. By fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today. All right, let's welcome in our pal Scott Billeck, who has deserted all of us in the sports scene, has been traded across the hall, if you will, and this is the first time we welcome in and congratulate Scott on his new gig with the Winnipeg Free Press. What's going on?
Yeah, the future considerations trade there for me. So, yeah, basically I traded for a bag of pucks, but yeah, no, it's going well. Can't complain. Yeah, excited by the new opportunity. It was weird missing the game on Tuesday. It was weird not being in the building for one of the first times, and I'm trying to think. It's been a long time, other than when I've been either sick, and you usually had to be pretty sick to not make it to a game. So yeah, it feels a bit like a breakup. I think that's the best way that I put it. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's I'm enjoying it.
So what's the new role at the Free Press?
Yeah, just a news reporter, just a run-of-the-mill news reporter. So
back to your Big J roots, not spending all your time in the toy department with us.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I'm not in the Never Hungry League anymore, so maybe I'll lose some weight and all those things, right? So yeah, no, it's just it's a news job for now. We'll see what happens, obviously, in the future, but I'm not angling to get back into sports right away. That's for sure. It was a good run, 11 years, I think, all totaled when you put everything together. I can't believe it's been that long. Now this is just a new challenge, and I've been looking for one after COVID, and after the whole COVID beat ended and all that, and this one came along. And
you know what? Here's an angle. Here's an angle to get people going on the new news reporter gig. Just start updating COVID numbers again. Just start throwing out numbers today. Just hey, the Scott Billeck COVID update for today.
That's right. Yeah.
0 cases. They're not counting anymore. You can just do that every day. It'd be kind of a new shtick in the news department.
It would be pretty funny, eh? Man, I'd probably get
so what do you do
PTSD.
now? You just hang out at the Law Courts building waiting for bad news and bad shit to happen and then have to report it? Or how does that work?
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I mean, my first couple of days were that whole university thing that happened and all that. So that was
crazy.
Fun. I mean, and so there's a difference. I mean, for people who don't do this job, it probably just all kind of seems like the same thing, but you don't chase news the same way in sports. We're not insiders. Those guys do it a little bit differently than we would do. But I mean, for the most part, a day in sports is fairly regimented, right? Go to the rink, wait till practice ends, ask for your guys, talk to your guys, whatever, go home, right? And that's your day, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. Or if it's a game night, similar things, right? This one, you're literally you're scrolling through Reddit. I was scrolling through Twitter, Blue Sky, right? Just trying to figure out what was going on at the university, talking to all sorts of people, talking to, you're chasing a story in a different way than you would normally be doing that in sports. And so, it happens from time to time in sports, but the way that it worked at the Sun was different because it was just me. And so it was pretty much just the same thing day in and day out, in terms of the Jets beat. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time doing the university thing. Got a nice pothole feature coming on Monday.
Potholes, yes.
Oh, yeah, we've filled a lot of potholes this year. A record number of potholes.
Well,
this
Willie
year.
Jefferson did, just to bring this back to sports. Wasn't Willie Jefferson out with the mayor at one point, filling some potholes at the end?
That's right. Yeah, man.
Listen,
well,
you know
what?
Sincerely, I mean, congratulations on the new gig. Lots of nice comments in the chat. We thank you for your longtime contributions to the program, and we will miss you. But it's a great time to mention to the ruffians in the WST chat, your goal for 2025 is to not end up being covered by Scott Billeck. Because more often than not, if you're involved in one of Billeck's stories, it could possibly be bad news. Speaking of bad news, we've talked a lot of Bombers. We're going to hear from Mike O'Shea in a minute. What was your takeaway from that big disappointment on Sunday in Vancouver for the club?
Yeah, I mean, just that, right? Like, it's a huge letdown, and especially the way the team came together. But it was basically Winnipeg's season in a nutshell, right? Like, their offense couldn't get going, and so the team couldn't really win. And then the defense just wasn't there at times. Big plays, penalties. Like, there were some discipline issues. Like, Toronto took more penalties, but it was just some of the discipline issues. And I still think that whole pushing the guy while they were trying to recover that fumble was pretty silly. I'll just say that's a dumb penalty in my mind. But at the same time, I don't think that was changing the game around either. I mean, Toronto was just the better team, right? And it's tough to say if you're a Bombers fan, of course. But I mean, it sort of defines this sort of if you want to call it a dynasty or whatever. They're 2-3 instead of
dynasty.
3-2. Yeah, well, exactly, right. And I saw some of the things that O'Shea said today, and he stood by the process. And the process, he figures, has got them from 0-4 and 2-6 to finishing 12-7 and all that. But I think at some point when you lose, I mean, it's great and all to get the 5 straight Grey Cups, but the last 3, but not getting over the hump in the last 3 years, that's also a tough pill to swallow because the bar is so high, right? Like, you've set the bar so high and then you just can't get it done in the big game. I think, and I agree with some of the people that you've had on this week, Jeff, and all that. Like, I mean, I think there's got to be a bit of change coming to this team. And I don't know what that looks like, right? Because, your biggest problem potentially this year, if you want to think overall, was Zach Collaros' sort of performance this year. It wasn't up to his kind of lofty standards, and he signed for another year, and you're hosting the Grey Cup, and Wade Miller wants the Bombers in that Grey Cup, right? I mean, that's always the dream of anybody hosting, is to have the home team there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do this year and how they figure it out. And we'll see. Good thing for Winnipeg sports fans, at least the Jets bounce back. And
what a game that was on Tuesday. We needed it too. Like, we had the WST crew out and filled section 316. Great crowd on that Tuesday night. And I mean, everyone was saying, get us this win. We need to bring the good vibes back. We were pretty spoiled there for the entire start of the hockey season. The second half of the football season ended with a bit of a thud last weekend with the Jets taking on the chin in Florida and then going in. But tell you what, one big win against Maurice and the Panthers, I think, was all it took. And the Jets are still on top of the league, and 2 big games coming up. Listen, there's a lot of interest in the pothole thing. If you do want to start a WPT, Winnipeg Pothole Talk segment here every now and then, or at key times, we can make that work. But Scott, listen, sincerely, and I'm sure you'll be back at some points, to chop it up with us just as buddies. But good luck in the new, in your new home of the Winnipeg Free Press. And listen, we are so lucky in Winnipeg to have a paper like the Free Press that continues to invest in big J journalism, and you're definitely one of the big J's. So you've got a great home. We'll miss you on the sports beat and regularly here. But you know what? That might mean you're a little more available to actually go and not be in the press box and hang out with us at games sometimes. So
I've thought about that. I honestly, I thought it was crazy. Like, I thought about coming on Tuesday, and I was like, I need a break, right? This is why I call it a breakup, right?
Six game road trip. Come December, we're back. You're more than invited. So let's do it again soon. Thanks for doing this, pal. Have a great one.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks again.
All right. And again, thanks to everyone, and very nice comments for Scotty, who is one of our favorites and been a great longtime contributor here on WST. All right, we're going to have Hacksaw come up. We mentioned the Bombers and the end of the season. Mike O'Shea spoke today, an extended media address of about a half hour, and there's a lot to it. I mean, you can go to the bomberswebsite.com if you want to take in it all. But Remis, as always, doing a crack job of getting some of the highlights. So before we get to the NFL Notebook with Hacksaw and get into the marble race, let's hear a little bit of Mike O'Shea. And, of course, still thinking about Sunday. And O'Shea was asked on what he would change about the game if he could.
Absolutely. Use a challenge flag earlier, call a timeout, check on the guys more, during the game, say something differently. I don't know. Yeah, those kind of things for sure.
I mean, listen, not surprisingly, when you don't get it done, you look back at every aspect of the operation and probably, have some regrets. The biggest question, though, was about the way things transpired in the fourth quarter. Zach Collaros going back into the game with the injured and numbed finger. We know how that ended up. O'Shea was asked if he would still send Zach out, looking back at that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when you ask me that, that's not even something I've really thought about. First of all, that internal debate is what makes Zach a great teammate and a great leader. He's always trying to put the team first. Then the second part of that is watching him throw. Well, he's the best, right? And then watching him throw, I thought, hey, yep, we can. This is something he's going to be able to work with. And then thirdly, he absolutely deserves every opportunity to lead this team. So, from what I saw and from just chatting with him very briefly, I felt really comfortable with that. I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I thought it's Zach. So,
yeah. Did it surprise you though when it goes? I think it's 3 straight interceptions though. Is that kind of, I don't know, a shock to you on the sideline? Just like, okay, well maybe he is even worse than maybe I thought he was.
Yeah, I thought one of them he got rid of the ball. I thought it was a good ball. Defensive player made a good play. One slipped right out of his hand. I don't know if it got tipped or not, but one slipped out of his hand. I thought. You got to give him that opportunity.
All right, so Mike O'Shea wouldn't do anything differently when it comes to throwing Zach Collaros back in the game, despite the way that it ended. He was also asked if he and his staff had called more plays for Brady Oliveira to run the ball in the big game.
I think you're suggesting that it wasn't called enough, if that's what you're suggesting. But the runs, we called about 17 or 18 runs. One starts off with a procedure penalty in the first, and then 6 of those get pulled because there's X number of guys in the box, or the read says this is not a run play anymore. This is now a pass play. So you call that many runs, and then a pile of them get pulled because of the structure of the defense. So, that's okay with me at that point. You got to make a decision and live with it. We have plays that are designed to, everybody does, that have options on them, and you try to put the defense in the worst possible spot depending on how they show up, right?
All right, so there's O'Shea. Now, Mike was also asked about a potential change to offensive coordinator if Buck Pierce does not leave to go to be a head coach anywhere. The answer, absolutely not. But here's one final quote from O'Shea. And with Buck reportedly being the top choice for BC and their head coaching vacancy, here's what O'Shea had to say on if he's thought about his next OC if Buck does get that chance to become a head coach in the Canadian Football League.
Every year, because Buck gets talked about to be a head coach every year. So every year you think about it, right? This year's no different. Buck absolutely could be a head coach in this league.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if, in the event that he wasn't to get that job, do you think that there would be any changes to be made at his position? Not at all.
Not a chance.
So there you have it. Just a little bit of a few highlights from Mike O'Shea's season-ending presser today after the Bombers dropped the Grey Cup last Sunday to the Toronto Argonauts. Well, we're done with the Canadian Football League for the year. The playoff push for the NFL is heating up. We had a wild game last night. As Lee Hacksaw Hamilton put it, an AFC North street fight. And what a spectacle it was on television. We'll open up marbles in just a minute or two, so pay attention to the chat. You know what to do, everyone. But let's welcome in Hacksaw. And Hacksaw, great to have you on the program, as always. What a fun game it was last night. And, man, I feel great for the Cleveland Browns fans. You know how passionate they are. They all stayed there throughout the fourth quarter, getting snowed on at a crazy rate. And their team ended up rewarding them with a big win over an 8-2 Pittsburgh team. That was quite a TV spectacle and a real fun game to watch.
Hustler, good to talk to you. I've got
hold on one sec. Remo, echo again. We good?
One sec.
Are we good?
Okay. Let me just find something here. Should be good.
Oh, don't press the wrong button. You'll start a nuclear war with North Korea.
We're good to go. We're good to go, Hacksaw. What did you think of last night?
Answer. I always feared that was going to be an ambush and waiting. And then the Steelers wound up playing maybe the most miserable first half of football I have seen. I mean, 4 quarterback sacks. Twice they failed on fourth down conversions. Another on a 3rd and inches conversion. Russell Wilson was under siege. Chris Boswell missed a field goal. And by the time they got to halftime, they were not only fighting the Browns and that pass rush, they were fighting the weatherman. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And yet Pittsburgh came back because Jameis Winston is vintage Jameis Winston. You know, he's a dude, Hustler, who can throw for 395 one Sunday, and the next Sunday turned it over 3 possessions in a row. And he had a fumble. He had an interception. Pittsburgh scored, I think, 2 touchdowns in a minute 52 and took the lead. And then Winston kept throwing balls into coverage. I mean, he probably could have had 4 interceptions in the game, but they won it in the snow. Pittsburgh's got to feel really lousy about how poorly they played the first half. You got to feel confident how well they played the second half. And for the Browns, at least for one night in a snowstorm, they feel good about themselves because that defense really played hard. But at the end of the day, it's still the Browns, and you're still sitting there at 3-8, and you have no playoff hopes, and you got bad salary cap issues. And now maybe you got a quarterback controversy going because Jameis Winston has shown, I can spray it and I can throw it, and maybe we can win some games with me. You haven't been winning with the other guy, Deshaun Watson. So that's a sum total there. Pittsburgh, to me, has been the most surprised team in football. I always gauge a head coach. How good is he, and how much better does his team get as the season goes on? And Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season in 18 years now. And Mike Tomlin's team has gotten progressively better and better. You think back to the first weekend of September when I started this year's NFL Notebook segments, Hustler. Pittsburgh had 2 rental quarterbacks that nobody thought either one could play. And now Pittsburgh's sitting there at 8-3 with Russell Wilson showing a little bit of vintage Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields is kind of being a unique pinch hitter, run the football quarterback off the bench for 3 or 4 plays a game. So Pittsburgh's a real deal right now, although I don't think Pittsburgh is anywhere equal to the super teams in the AFC, but they're pretty good. But that was an ambush in the making, and they got it.
Yeah, a tough spot. I know dating back to 2018, underdogs are hitting it like over 60% in those AFC North battles. And listen, the Browns may be 3-8. The fans are happy because Deshaun Watson's not playing for him anymore. They've got a character in Jameis Winston that you can at least feel good about supporting. He is an unbelievable character and has the best sound bites in football. And I'll tell you what, at 3-8, the fact that they beat the Ravens and beat the Steelers, it'll feel like a 500 record just because those ones mean a little bit more.
Please explain. How's that possible? How's Cleveland beat those 2 quality teams? But I have this philosophy in life. It's the way you play the day you play, and on those 2 given days, Cleveland cranked it up and found a way to get it done.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the Ravens in a minute. It's for one of the top games of the week. They're playing the Monday Nighter. I mean, they have at times looked like the best team in football, and then they've been the team that blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead to the Raiders at home and lost to Cleveland. I mean, they are, you just don't know what you're going to get from Baltimore throughout. But, this is going to kind of take us into the Daniel Jones news today, who's been cut by the Giants, and we'll see what's next for Danny Dimes. But do you think Deshaun Watson ever plays another snap for the Cleveland Browns?
They're so tied to the contract. I mean, it's a catastrophe. If they cut him, I think you and I might have talked about this a couple weeks ago. If they cut him, they take a $92 million cap hit next season. 92. And up until breakfast this morning, the worst cap hit was Denver, $76 million for Russell Wilson when they ate the contract going forward so he could leave and go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. $92 million is an ungodly amount of money that would come off your salary cap. So if they post-cut him June 1st, then it's $45 million one year and $45 million the next year, but that's still $92 million, if you will. It's a huge question. They have so many depth of problems in Cleveland, not just quarterback, but catastrophic injuries. They have not had their bookend left tackles almost 2 consecutive years in a row, and that's why the quarterbacks have gotten killed. And their secondary, as gifted as their DB group is, their secondary is always hurt. They can't keep Grant Delpit and the other guys on the field, and all those guys were high draft picks. So Cleveland's gone on paper from being a potentially, wow, look at that team, to a team that just bloody can't play because they can't keep people healthy. So it's going to be an unbelievable offseason in Cleveland as to who survives this, and that includes that coach, and it probably includes that general manager. And by the way, that public, that's a vote of no confidence in Cleveland Brown fan in the dog pound towards that owner, Jim Haslam. They don't like him either.
No, we'll get to the coaches in a minute because I want to get on Stefanski. But just while we're talking about quarterbacks, so the Giants aren't even starting Drew Lock, who they paid $5 million to be their backup. They're going with Tommy Cutlets, DeVito in, and Danny Dimes cut today. What makes sense of this for us, Lee?
Well, I think in the overall big picture, it's an indictment of the terrible leadership on the football operation of the New York Football Giants. Not the Mara family. That's one of the great families in football, very loyal to its employees and its players for decades upon decades. The Maras have owned this team since the 1930s. That being said, when your general manager and your coach, Hustler, makes the kind of mistakes they've made in the draft, I mean, Daniel Jones was the victim of all the junk that was going on around him. I don't know how great a quarterback he is because he's never quite shown it, but he's never shown it because he had no pass protection. He had years where your wide receiver core, you look at the depth chart and say, who the hell are these guys? And then they had draft picks that bombed out at wide receiver. And they had Saquon Barkley, and they let him walk across the bridge in the division to the Philadelphia Eagles. And Barkley's got almost 1,200 yards rushing for a team that's going to possibly be a Super Bowl contender. So the operation of the entire Giant football side of the building, I think, has just been in utter disarray. And I think the Mara family, although they don't like to fire people, I think there's got to be a house cleaning probably coming there. As for Jones, the stats show one thing. He's 24-44 as a starter. I think the number I looked at, I wrote about it in my column this week on the website. It's 70 games, 70 touchdown passes, but the guy's got like 90 turnovers and took 208 sacks. Think about that, 208 sacks in 70 games. That's a byproduct of the mess around him. Thought he did something classy 2 days ago when his weekly quarterback meeting, he said, I apologize for how really poorly I have played for a year and a half. I apologize to the fans. I apologize to this organization. He called the Maras first-class people, etc. But I think the reality is he was just paving the way for the meeting with John Mara early hours this morning in which he asked for his release. The Giants gave him the release. Nobody's going to touch that contract because he's still got $90 million guaranteed on it, plus an injury clause in it. He'll be a street free agent. Giants are going to take a massive salary cap hit the rest of this season and a bigger cap hit next year. Somebody will give him a chance, but it's going to be a much lower price. And his stats just aren't very impressive, but is it him or is it all the garbage that happened around Daniel Jones?
I don't think he's going to be a starter anytime soon, but I actually think he'd be an upgrade as a backup for a lot of teams in the NFL. Is this a next year thing, or could he sign somewhere in the next little bit for like league minimum, considering all the money he's getting from the Giants?
Well, he'll clear waivers, and then he'll be a street free agent, but there's not that much time left in the season. You don't bring somebody in this late in the season and expect him to play. Usually when you're in need of a quarterback, the thing is the guy physically ready to play? Well, if he's been on a team in practice every day of the week, yeah. But to ingrain a guy in your playbook, it's really hard at such a late date with only a group of weeks left. Maybe somebody brings him in. I don't know. Baker Mayfield did it. Mayfield showed up on a minimal contract and kind of resurrected his career with the LA Rams. And then look what he's doing down in Tampa. He's throwing 25 touchdown passes. Somebody will give Daniel Jones a chance, but it's got to be the right location. And I think maybe he steps away for the rest of the season, sees what free agency looks like in the quarterback ranks, sees what the draft looks like, see who has chronic needs, and hell, half the teams in the league probably need veteran quarterbacks. The most simple explanation I can give you is a really vested veteran quarterback is sitting at home right now, has not gotten a job, Ryan Tannehill. Now, granted, his play because of an injury kind of eradicated his career in Tennessee. That's a good quarterback. But to bring somebody in the season and expect him to play and play well, that's really hard. There's not very many Joe Flacco's out there that can kind of show up without practice. And here I am. I save you, although that catches up to you too. So Jones will play somewhere next year. Not at the price.
While we're talking Browns and Giants, Kevin Stefanski's obviously taken some heat. I think that win last night and the win against the Ravens, I think buys him enough currency with the fan base that I don't think there'll be a huge push to get him out. And he has been very successful for Cleveland Browns standards so far. But, him, Dable, and who are the other coaches that are really feeling the heat right now as we get down to the short strokes of the regular season?
What's the area code in Dallas-Fort Worth? Anybody in Dallas-Fort Worth's in trouble. Mike McCarthy, his entire staff, their contracts expire. The last day of the season, all their contracts are done.
Bye-bye.
So there's going to be a change there. Although, Jerry Jones has been very loyal to coaches. I think he's only made one in-season coaching change in his entire ownership run going back to the mid-1980s. But I would say something has to change in Dallas. And I'll tell you this, and, people yell at me and probably yell at you because you put me on the air today. I don't use injuries as an excuse, but I use injuries as an explanation. The Cowboys have had 16 major injuries on the defensive side of the football alone. That doesn't include the mess in the offensive line and the fact that they have not been able to keep other people healthy. 16 on one side of the football. That's why they are where they are. But I think there'll probably be a change there. I'm surprised that there was not an eject button hit in Jacksonville right this week on the bye week because that thing's going in the wrong direction. I'll tell you, Chicago's coach, Ed Eberflus, I think, is in real hot water just because of the regression in Caleb Williams. In fact, the regression of the entire team. In Vegas, Antonio Pierce, he talks a really good game. But what's their record? 2-8, about to be 2-9. And that situation, because he has input or has had input into roster decisions, they have no quarterback. They have no lead running back. They traded their top wide receiver. And all these guys, these decisions were triggered by that coach. This guy does not fit. So I think Antonio Pierce is probably in significant trouble. Just off the top of my mind, those are the ones. The other facet of the question, get this, Hustler, marquee guys who could be hired. At the top of the list, put an asterisk next to it, Belichick. Belichick is putting together a staff to go back to the NFL as soon as the playoffs are over. And he's taken Josh McDaniels with him. He's taken some of his New England cadre with him. He's going to get hired. Now, the only burning question as it relates to Belichick is you're going to let him be general manager as well as coach? That becomes an issue.
Well, what about the Jets? Because they've cast their coach and they just fired Joe Douglas this week. And wouldn't that be amazing if Belichick went to the Jets in the same division as the New England Patriots?
Well, you jumped on my shoes here. Item one, Jerry Jones, Bill Belichick. Hell, that makes sense. But has Jerry Jones ever ceded power to anybody? No. He's
Definitely
president.
Not.
He's president, owner, hyphen general manager. A second sexy one would be the Raiders, because the Raiders always hire the shiny object. But they've got a good general manager who's got a big challenge ahead to fix that roster. But is Tom Telesco going to cede decision-making power to Belichick? So I'm not sure that that's a good fit only because of who's in place on a long-term contract. Yes, Jets. But that owner, Woody Johnson's got a real bad rep for meddling. That becomes a big issue. And by the way, on the other side of the bridge, if they fire everybody in the Giants organization, would the Mariners go to Belichick? Anything is possible there. So I'd say Belichick right now is hot name. Second hot name, how good a job did Mike Vrabel do in Tennessee in terms of culture and bonding? Look at what the Titans have become since they forced him out. Mike Vrabel is probably the second big name that you want to consider. In terms of hot coordinators, defensive coordinator of the Chargers, Jesse Minter, I think, is probably going to get some interviews along the way. A guy that probably deserves a chance to bounce back. Brilliant defensive coordinator. Former head coach Miami, now in Minnesota. Look what he's doing with the Vikings right across the state line from you, Brian Flores. Keep that in mind. And there are two college names I'll throw out there. One could happen. The other, maybe it's a year from now. Lane Kiffin's done an unbelievable job at Ole Miss, which does not have historically a lot of resources. Lane Kiffin may want to go back to the NFL. And right across the state line, New Orleans Saints job is open. And the last one, although this might be a bit of a reach, what Dan Lanning has done at the University of Oregon, he might be looking at a head coaching job in the NFL as his next stop. And Dan Lanning, Dallas Cowboys, to me, if I connect dots based on relationships, that might be something. But it might not be this year because, the Ducks are en route to maybe get the national championship. But then again, Harbaugh left after getting the national championship at Michigan to come back to the NFL. So maybe this rumor about Lanning to the NFL makes sense too. So left hand is just giving you the listing of job openings. Right hand's giving you hot candidates. Go ahead, connect the dots.
Hacksaw, listen, we're tight on time, but real quickly, what are your favorite games to see this week? There's a few beauties on the sched.
Is it Monday night yet? Must see Monday Night Football.
Harbaugh Bowl.
Yeah, enough with the Harbaugh Bowl. I want to see the matchup of Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. Chargers have obviously grown with Justin Herbert at quarterback, and they're throwing the ball down the field. Baltimore is unbelievably dynamic offensively. When was the last time a civilization as a John Harbaugh team averaged 435 yards per game? Because that's what Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, the receivers and tight ends are doing. The problem is that Baltimore has got a really young defense, and they're learning on the job, and some Sundays are better than others. So Chargers, Baltimore on Monday. San Francisco at Green Bay. The Niners got a real series of injury problems, and now Brock Purdy may not play, has just had an MRI today on a strained shoulder and is not practicing at all. So Frisco may have to go play the Packers and the Weatherman at Lambeau Field without Brock Purdy's had a good season. Arizona in the Pacific Northwest at Seattle. That's going to be cool. Kyler Murray against Geno Smith. The weather in the Pacific Northwest is brutal. The Seahawks not able to practice. Facility had to be shut down because of storm damage. No electric power and heat. They had to move to Lumen Field and practice outdoors. I'm not sure if Seattle's totally healthy, but those two quarterbacks will put on a show. And then maybe the weirdest one could be another upset in the making, but I'm not so sure. Philadelphia is just cooking. They got everything going offensively. It took them about 5 weeks into the season before the defense started to catch on. They are limiting teams to 276 yards a game. That's absolutely phenomenal. So you got Jalen Hurts and the Eagles going to play the Rams, and Sean McVay's got these young Rams players, all these draft picks on defense, just playing with their hair on fire. But that's the Eagles. There's so many things that you're going to have to defend against them. So unbelievable. We got four really legitimate, big-time, pay-attention, must-see games on TV this weekend.
Can't wait for it, gang. If you weren't with us yesterday, we jumped in a Hacksaw show afterwards. Head on over to YouTube, subscribe at Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, and of course, check out the all the writings in the best 15 minutes every day at LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Have a great weekend, Saw. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Football Friday, Beer Friday, next Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks, and sorry about the Blue Bombers. That was tough. Felt bad for Zach Collaros. I know there's a lot of second guessing, and hindsight is always 20/20 in the rearview mirror, but I'll just say this stateside. A lot of respect for that guy, what the career has made for himself. And your ass would not be playing in the Grey Cup game had it not been for Zach during the course of the season. Please remember that. Next year will be next year.
No doubt about that. Hey, next year, we got to get you out here to the Peg for the Grey Cup. 51 weeks from now, start planning at Hacksaw. We'll roll out the red carpet for you. And we'll have a Beer Friday and a beer weekend for the Grey Cup, the biggest party of the year in person. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, have a great sports weekend to your fans. We'll talk to you again. Thanks.
Good stuff. All right. Great stuff from Hacksaw as well. Last call for marbles, everybody. If you just popped in, you still got time. ! Marbles in the chat. Remis will wrap that up in just a minute while I get into today's Cool Bet lines. Now, what do we have today? It's slow night in the NHL, but we don't care about all the other games. Well, there's only one other game, and it's Buffalo and Anaheim. So enjoy that one if you want to watch that. It'll be a later game tonight. But all eyes in the NHL are going to be on Pittsburgh for the number one team in the league, your Winnipeg Jets, rolling in to take on Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. And we got to lay it out where both of these teams are in the standings. It is not a surprise that the Winnipeg Jets are a big favorite, minus 176 on the money line. The Penguins plus 149. Total in this game is 6. The Jets to win by 2 on the puck line, plus 144. And then as far as the goal scorer props, Kyle Connors plus 118. Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele are plus 190. Gabe Vilardi plus 175. Interesting that he's got a shorter number than those other two. And if you are someone that expects milestones to happen against the Jets, Sidney Crosby at plus 185. Now, if you go over into the exclusives, I guess you got to click off load more now because there's a few other things. But you go down to the bottom. WST Parlay is here. I put this together. We banged off a winner in the Florida game. So let's do it again tonight. Jets to win on the money line. That's where we start. I'm adding a Nikolai Ehlers goal. And Cole Perfetti has been very quiet lately. It's time for Cole Perfetti to get on the score sheet. So we're going to add a Cole Perfetti point and Mr. Consistency, Josh Morrissey, a point as well. So an Ehlers goal, Perfetti and Morrissey to get a point, Jets to win. That's 10-1 tonight. It's 4-1 for our winner on Tuesday. Adding in a goal and a Perfetti point to get that number up. So 10-1 right now. And again, what you're going to want to do, side margin, click on the exclusives, and then you'll see they've just added a few other things. So you got to go right down to the bottom and just click load more. Boom. There's the WST parlay ready to go for you tonight at 10-1. I am in on it, and that would certainly make my day. As far as the NFL goes, Chiefs 11-point favorites against the Panthers. The Vikings 3.5-point road favorites against the Bears. Texans laying 7.5 at home against Tennessee. The Lions 7-point road favorites against the Colts. Miami 7.5-point favorites against the Patriots. The Bucs laying 6 on the road against the Tommy DeVito-led Giants. Commanders 10-point favorites over the Cowboys. Denver 6 over the Raiders. It's looking more and more like Brock Purdy is not going to play, and that's why we've seen the line in the Niner-Packer game go from 2.5 to 3, now to 3.5. Keep your eyes on that quarterback situation. He barely practiced yesterday, left early, did not return. Major concern about that one. I love this Arizona-Seattle game. Straight up pick 'em. Cardinals and Seahawks battling for first place in the division. Cardinals with a 1-game lead over the Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers. The Rams are a 3-point home dog against the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. And right now the Ravens, 2.5-point favorites in LA at SoFi against the Chargers. We do have our partner parlay up, I believe. That's in the combo cards, actually, right on the top. We put these together during the lock shop today. The partner parlay is the Lions minus 6.5, Broncos minus 5.5, and Rams plus 3.5. That's got a boost up to plus 549. And our house callers, we're picking a few chalky guys to score, but I like this one. Joe Mixon to get in the end zone, Brian Robinson Jr., Christian McCaffrey, and Jalen Hurts. That's boosted up to plus 693. Those are in the combo cards right away. Oh, and I do love the field goal props. We got a Brett Lothar parlay as well. What has he got? Brandon Aubrey over 6.5 kicking points. Jason Myers over 6.5. And Joshua Carty over 6.5. That's 2 plus 570. All of those combo cards exclusives at CoolBet. If you have not played a CoolBet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Good luck to everyone with your weekend wagers. All right, Reem. Let's fire this up and get this weekend started with a little WST marble race. How are we feeling?
Sure. We got a lot of entries in today. I've been combing through the tracks. 260 entries.
By the way, a quick thanks to Isha Boy Bruce, who just dropped a nice super chat. The Bring Hacksaw to Grey Cup in Winnipeg Fund is being started.
It's here next year. Yeah, we should roll out the red carpet. That's a good idea.
Absolutely. We got to get the saw in here. We'll be doing a major WST event next year for the Grey Cup. Rest assured that will be happening.
We should start planning that. I know the Grey Cup Festival, the team at the Bombers, they've been planning this for 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Already. So we should probably reserve a venue now. 260 marbles. I did go through the tracks. And this track, we've been going with Dylan. He's a track artist. He's got a lot, so I picked a really good one.
Oh, the same guy? Perfect. Like, we just need to go through his entire body of work. Every single one is monster.
He's the best. So, or they're the best. Schickster was even requesting a Dylan track. I was like, Schickster, I'm one step ahead of you. I've been going through them. Before we begin, we do need to mention a lot of people asking about this in chat. Big fine for the Grey Cup streaker, $10K. Banned from BC Place. I don't know, seems like peanuts compared to what she's going to earn from her Streak Speak podcast that's coming out soon.
Has she been identified?
I don't know, but she probably should.
Normally, something like this happens and the internet sleuths are on it, and within... I mean, how long did it take for that Oilers girl that flashed during the playoffs to be...
A couple days. I think she was laying low, and then once she revealed herself, she was hanging out with Barstool in the suite, and I think she was doing okay after that with sponsorship opportunities. The Grey Cup streaker, haven't heard from her. I don't know, 10K? I don't know. It seems like not a lot, based on what these independent contractors can do on the internet these days, and it hasn't been identified.
She is an independent contractor, but if she wasn't before, she might be now with the 10K invoice from the Vancouver Police Department. And considering what she brought to the table at the Grey Cup, I have a feeling that OnlyFans might be the way for her to raise the funds. Certainly didn't seem like a shy person. So maybe that's the way she goes and makes the 10K, and who knows, maybe more.
I keep saying, it's a weird year where you have the Oilers flasher, you have Haley Welsh, the Hawk Tua girl.
She's a superstar.
Making podcasts. Well, I got to be honest, I plagiarized that Streak Speak podcast name. I did ask ChatGPT for a couple suggestions. Bringing it again, ChatGPT. The other one has a Flag on the Play podcast, and Running Free was another one.
You know what? ChatGPT doing a pretty good job with these suggestions.
Good sense of humor at ChatGPT. So I don't know. I saw that number and I was like, well, if this girl was an astute businesswoman, she could make that 10K very easily. We'll see what happens, but it's something that did come up in our chat today and was on 3 Down Nation, but maybe she's just laying low. If you're just going to lay low, not worth it, but you can call it a startup fee if you're going to launch the next Streak Speak podcast.
Well, to be honest, she was the fan of the game in many people's minds, and one of the few awesome moments of the 111th Grey Cup, if you're a Bomber fan in BC. And it was somewhat funny. Like, she literally got on the field and basically ran right towards us. It was a moment that, not just a moment, it took a while because it didn't seem like anybody really wanted to go and take her down. But treated a little bit with more kid gloves than many of the male streakers we've seen get on professional football fields in the past. But I wish her well. I hope she can pay the fine, and I hope whatever happens going forward, she comes out on the other end better for it.
The jokes are flying in, saying that she got more yardage running than Brady Oliveira, and Chris Vermette saying she handled herself better at the 20-yard line than Lucky Whitehead. Ouch. I feel bad reading those as we try to use humor to get over the Grey Cup loss. But if you really do want to punish yourself this weekend, Hustler, check out Paul LaPolice's YouTube channel. He's brought the coach's tape for the Grey Cup showing the Bombers' offense. No, not on the streaker. On the Bombers. He didn't have
with a full breakdown of the streaker from the Grey Cup on the coach's tape. No, all 24.
No, it's worse than that. It's the Bombers' offense under the microscope. He's got the telestrator out. He's showing all the plays. If you got 20 minutes for torture, tune into that. Or you can listen to Mike O'Shea. I mean, Jeff, well, he's going to join on Monday. He grilled Mike O'Shea about the decision to bring Zach Collaros back, asking him if he was fully aware, how injured that finger was and how much it did impact his ability to throw. We don't want to keep beating this over and over, but I think it's important to have these discussions. They did lose 3 Grey Cups in a row, and I think this one, I don't know, the other ones where you could be like, they were like last second plays, went down to the wire, coin flip. I don't know, this seems like they kind of beat themselves. Although Zach was, or you could look at it, hey, their quarterback was injured and they didn't have a capable backup, and that kind of screwed them.
Yeah,
so
if we're going to beat anything to death, let's make it be streaker talk on the program. And to Sclarty's point, yes, we will keep you all abreast of these fines. Yeah. All right, let's fire it up. We can't do marbles without a little Tristan Rivers music. So let's do that and then get ready for the race.
Okay, I got to pull up a song here. I don't know. Do we care which one?
No, dealer's choice.
All right. Well, I always like this one. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize you could throw videos into ChatGPT. 1 sec.
All right, 260 marbles in the race today. Remo, can you add me in all caps? And I think we need to put one in for the Grey Cup streaker. If she wins, we'll send her the WST hoodie or we'll auction it off to help pay for the fines.
Yeah. Sure. We don't even have a name or anything. It actually is kind of surprising how little information has come out about the Grey Cup streaker.
I'm disappointed. I mean, I would have thought that would have been everywhere very quickly afterwards. But, I mean, it's kind of funny saying, oh, no, she wants to keep to herself after jumping on fully nude and running around the field at BC Place in the middle of the Grey Cup. But I digress. So we'll give the streaker a marble. And we'll get to this track. What's this one called?
Amazing Dreaming Air. And yes, talking about the Grey Cup, I joked before that the Grey Cup streaker hadn't revealed herself, and someone, of course, someone in the chat came up and said pretty sure she already did reveal herself. But anyways, the jokes are flying today. It's Friday afternoon. We're having fun. 273 people in the marble race. I did officially close it. Let me just get it all set here. And then that was that version has Christopher Cross by Tristan Rivers. Yacht Rock. There's a big Yacht Rock documentary coming out on HBO later this month, I think. So I might have to check that out if that's the type of music you're into.
Oh yeah, that sounds exhilarating, thrilling. Jen Cool, Lock Shop legend Jen. Huss has been trying to find her on OnlyFans with no such luck. For the record, I have not been. But again, I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, you can't really just Google like naked lady running on field at Grey Cup and expect to get like their Instagram profile or anything else that they might be up to. But needless to say, if we have more developments on this story, we'll cover it here on WST, a big part of the aftermath of the 111th Grey Cup as we go into the CFL offseason. Maybe a special on CFL 110 on it at some point in the off season. Anyways, great turnout today for the for the marble race today. By the way, make sure you've hit that red subscribe button or the blue subscribe button, whatever the color the subscribe button is, so you're eligible to win our the hoodie that you can only get by winning the WST marble race. Hit the thumbs up as well while you're at it, if you don't mind. Helps us spread the channel. So what's this one called?
This one is called Amazing Dreaming Air. Ooh. And we have 275 marbles in.
It's one of the biggest marble races we've ever had today.
It is a big one. So everyone's here for a Friday. Jets are playing well. And hey, we mentioned Crosby. He's one away from a milestone 600th goal. You might remember the day, February 16, 2017, where he hit his 1,000th point, also against the Winnipeg Jets. He had 3 points in that game, including the OT winner. So I remember...
Better not be an OT winner tonight.
You know who scored in that game for the Jets?
Okay, 2017.
They lost 4-3.
Who scored for the Jets? 2017. How about, let's see here. What do we've got? Was Tanev still on the team? How about Brandon Tanev?
No, he was not. I don't know if
he gave him the big deal after that.
He wasn't on the team then. I will say two of them are fan favorites.
Buff.
Here, he did score.
Brian Little.
No, not quite. Who I'll tell you. Patrick Laine got his 27th. This other one you'll never guess. Paul Postma, assisted by Adam Lowry. It was his first of the year. I would not have even had Postma on the roster in 2017.
I remembered that. I was about to say it.
Oh, were you? Sorry. Sorry.
No, kidding.
Well, here I'll bring out the marbles.
Yes,
enough
let's
delay.
do this.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite part of the show, though.
I've been battling through today. A couple days off will do me well, and then hopefully we'll be back in close to 100%.
Oh, I got it
out of the weekend.
1 sec. Let me just add these. I screwed it up.
Okay, we got to go back. We got to add everyone's marble in here.
I didn't do it. So, but this is a really good track. Really good. Like maybe the best track.
I love it. This Dylan, BA says we should get Dylan on the show at some point. I don't know how we'd find or contact Dylan, but we, if nothing else, we should send him a WST hoodie. As a master of marbles. You're the maestro of marbles, making it happen, but he is the master designer of marbles on Marbles on Stream. All right, 275 marbles. Good luck to everybody. Let's officially start off this weekend right with the WST marble race on a Friday on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Here we go. Everyone into a massive funnel, into a second funnel. Wow, How about the start for Sheps? RWTV Retro Winnipeg with a massive, massive start. Who else do we have in here? We've got Val. Oh, somebody just got thrown over the top rope. Hootman, Alex Howe, Kabilis. Did not last very long today. Val L in first right now. Who do we have here? Tracy O doing quite well. Kevin Kowaluk looking quite good. Larry, this is so many marbles. We're getting a few more early. Oh, Les Thompson just got whacked. Sorry about that, Les. I see Bart Olmond. Who's coming out first? Oh, Sheps, after that great start, just got laid out. Jen Cool is through and now into these next run of obstacles. Who's into first? This is going to be whoever's getting out of this big funnel. Julien Labossiere. And then who's in second, Remo? I can't read that.
I can't see. Michelle Hart.
Oh, Michelle Hart and Julien Labossiere right now. Jen Cool in third. But Julien going down the circular staircase into what looks like some sort of a lint brush. And now Julien is coming down with a nice, pretty comfortable lead, to be honest. Waiting for everyone. Michelle Hart. Oh, Amanda's in the mix. Amanda has 2 wins this year. Oh. And it said, oh, out. Sorry, Amanda. Just as I was giving you props, you get tossed over the top rope. Now, Klassen came out the other side. Look at this. James Stevenson now. General Tom's on the other side, but it looks like Klassen, Steve-O, Phyllis, Dave McLean in the mix on this one right now. Bardo, Nicole J, Val L just got popped. Oh, and Al C. Al, I think, got thrown out and ended up on the track and is now in first place. Can Al be caught? A very nice, and a great transition through that obstacle. Al right now has the lead. Can Phyllis catch Al? Phyllis is coming. Jamie Stevenson is coming. And Al just has not been able to get out onto this next little bit. Okay, so Al is in this next pod. Phyllis and others will be jumping into the second one. But I do think, is this the drop right here?
Yeah, this is Al's to lose here.
So can Al get it? Al C is our winner today. Nicely done. And look at this, CFL 60 OG, who just picked up his hoodie yesterday from me, if you can believe it, in the mix. Wilf's World in second. Curtis Perkins third. CFL OG fourth. Nicely done. We got Rick Fair, Stacy, Ringer, Cyber S, Atomic, and C Jury. C Jury, top 10. I saw C Jury coming. I think C Jury's a newer member of the Marbles crew. Not bad to get in on a top 10 performance. It's going to be interesting to see if everyone gets burnt, whether the fire comes in. We do see the fire coming for everybody. Everyone's going to get burnt if they can't get through, and that is it. Although Greg M survived. What a race. Al C, 261, our winner. Congratulations, Al. Al, send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Let us know your size, and we'll get back to you as to when you can come by and pick it up. Bridget sent you a message too. Let me know when you're in the city, and we'll get you set up. Getting down there. There's the Herbster. He also picked one up this week. T. Conopoli, nicely done. See, there's Tony Pop. Northside Sandwich. Shout out to the ESTers. Duck Dad as well. All right, there's Pat Rathwell. Hi, Pat. Amy, my guy, Bravo Bry. Strong performance. Just getting through this one was a good one today. Let's see if we're able to do it. Oh, look at Cam Thang. The Wild Thang was in full effect at Grey Cup last weekend. Hope you got some rest this week, Cam. Randy River, the artist formerly known as Randy D. There's my guy, Todd Fertani. What's up, Todd? Give me the Brown, Chris Joyal, Big Daddy Brent. There's Schickster, Presley, Tarnowski, Eagle Eyes, Shane Mason, Lambert, Terminator, and Greg M. Oh, it looks like we all of our head-to-head bet, I think we all got popped today. There's Wayne Gretzky, Running Man, AJ, Paul Carr. Saw Paul Carr at the game. Paul was one of the people that was worried about the Jets after losing too. Paul's in a much better state of mind, I'm sure, after the win. There's Ross. Ross is out. There's Hustlerama. And there's Amanda. And I'm sure Bozeman is in here somewhere as well. Not able to get through. Great race, though. And congratulations again to Al C., our big winner today. So Al, and man, Al won running away. Now, Al did get a very beneficial drop at some point. He was going to get thrown over the top rope, but ended up magically catching a rail and staying alive with a nice, comfortable win in today's marble race. So Al, again, Winnipeg Sports Talk at gmail.com. We'll hook you up with the hoodies that are in. Shout out to our friends at Shipham and Associates for teaming up with us on the exclusive WST hoodies that you can only win on a marble race. Oh, and by the way, Reem, so I've got the hoodies, and I was talking to Amanda the other day, and she was mentioning she's going to be getting some patches made, Marbles Champion, and then CFL 60 OG that picked it up yesterday also mentioned that they're doing the same thing. So we could see some modded out hoodies, courtesy of the marble race, with people adding their own flair to make sure everybody knows just why they have it as a marble champion on WST.
Wow. Love to see it. Yeah, you got to have a patch for maybe like the date you won or something, or the track, or how many times now he's like won once a year. We've been here doing this marble race for a while. So I love the creativity. Love to see the hoodies out. Awesome. That was, some of these track sets, I don't think they're built to have 275 marbles on at one time. That's why you have so many go over the top rope. And Al C, I think, was supposed to go over, but landed right on the near the end. Incredible finish there.
It was, I think Amanda, one of her 2 wins this year. Anyway, she was talking a big game earlier this week about, planning to win her 3rd. And then if she did win the 3rd, was hoping to have some sort of a nomination for Female Athlete of the Year this year for 3 marble victories. So, man, if you get it done, I mean, we pretty much will have no choice but to put you up there with the greats in sports. Close but no cigar today. Congrats to Al. Thanks again to Jeff Marek. It was great to have Jeff on the show. Good luck to him on the new venture with the boys over at Daily Faceoff. Thanks to Mike, Hacksaw, and congrats again to Scott Billeck on his move over to the Winnipeg Free Press. That is going to do it for us today, gang. Got to get this pod up so people can listen to it before puck drop tonight. Enjoy tonight's game. Enjoy Saturday's game against the Predators. And join us on Monday for a game day edition, Jets versus Wild. Hopefully we'll get Jessie Pierce on. Always love talking to her when the Jets and Wild go at it. And full recap of the weekend and getting ready for game number 3 of this 6-game road trip. Oh, by the way, poker players, don't forget next Tuesday is the next Lock Shop Poker Tournament with Winnipeg Sports Talk and Edmonton Sports Talk. Check our socials, but book that off. Randy, the now named Randy River, will be defending his 2nd place spot. Remis and I will be there. Bounties and all the fun. And, of course, that'll be an off day for the Jets. So Tuesday night, the poker tournament. We'll tell you more about that on Monday and on our socials and the Cool Bet socials as well. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Pasterson. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. And we'll see you Monday for the latest on the Jets and a big recap of a wild sports weekend coming up on Monday's show. We'll see you then. Have a good one.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.